Salutations, Legion of Doom. Welcome to Podcast of the Storm, where socially awkward outcasts, crazy weirdos, and all-around nerds convene to talk and debate all things pop culture. With me, as always, is my co-host, the nerdy occultist, aka the Authenticator, Dalton L. Mortimer.
Good evening, folks. Welcome back to relatively normal proceedings, or what passes for them around here.
And hopefully our second co-host, the primordial source of evil in comics, Corrupt, will be joining us soon. Not entirely sure because on Thursday he had said he had some problems with his computer. So hopefully he gets that fixed sometime in the future and he can join us whenever. And I'm your host, /Time Lord Wannabe, the Brainstormer Pop Culture. How's everyone doing tonight?
Well, I'm doing fine. I cannot speak for our audience or whether we have one yet. So there.
Right. All right. But first, we continue. A word from our sponsor. We do not have one. A wink.
We will hopefully at some point be brought to you by you, but until then, we do this gratis in the hopes that someone will pay attention at some point somewhere.
So, all in all, I think we kind of have an easy one this night.
Yeah, a fairly kind of standard candle week.
Yeah. So let's move on to the first one. We kind of already covered this last week, just on the fact that we're catching up with things we missed on October. But
we're revisiting a story we covered last week, wherein Martin Scorsese was a dumbass.
Personally, I don't think Scorsese was entirely wrong, but I do take issue that he's just devaluing something and not seeing the actual merit that's there. What he said itself wasn't wrong, but I think within context, there are problems with it.
I don't know is like the core of the sentiment was wrong in so much as he was being deliberately ignorant, and that annoyed me.
Yeah. Okay. So Martin Scorsese on whether Joker is cinema and why he didn't produce it. This is by IGN, by the way, which at one point was actually a legitimate site for like gaming and such, but has kind of
those days are dead and long past.
Yeah. Scorsese's latest comes to Netflix on November 27th, which I believe is The Irishman.
Yes.
And this was posted November 4th, 2019, so about 6 days ago.
Yeah.
Martin Scorsese is wading back into the controversy he sparked when he said Marvel movies are not cinema. Oh, right, I forgot. This is by Michael Domenico, and if I butchered that last name, I am sorry, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I don't think we're going to cover the writer of this article, but
I don't think the majority of the stupid is going to come from the writer in this case. I think it's going to be the subject.
Right. Okay. So, Martin Scorsese is wading back into the controversy sparked when he said Marvel movies are not cinema. Scorsese later clarified his comments, saying Marvel movies were a new art form and akin to theme parks. Now Scorsese is offering his opinion on whether Joker, which he almost produced, is cinema. Um, so cinema itself is very broad in its terms. I'm thinking if he's this is me in like inferring or like trying to guess what he meant. I think he's talking about like movies and like film. I think Angry Joe talked about like a difference. Like I watched a review once of his,
Mhm.
and he talked about like how there's a difference between movies and film. I think he was talking about Pacific Rim.
Yeah, but the thing is, all of those sort of arbitrary distinctions are based on a very loose and very authority based um decoupling of concepts, and usually, unless like objective criteria can be rendered somehow, it's probably going to be bullshit. And that's my main problem with this. You have essentially Martin Scorsese elevated certain movies above other movies because some movies aren't good enough to be classed with other movies, and some are too good to be classed with some other movies. And that's the point at which you get to be bullshit. Because if you go by the literal definition of the word cinema and all of its like historical and practical implications, cinema itself used to be a literal theme park attraction back in the late 1800s. So to artistically inflate one concept and artistically diminish another concept when basically they refer, or they should refer to, virtually the same thing is basically just an appeal to authority. And that's complete bullshit. It is a non-argument. And his entire argument rests on the validity of this non-argument. That's why it's bullshit.
Right. Okay. So during an interview with BBC Cinematic, I've never heard of that. I mean, I've heard of the BBC, but I didn't think there was like a
It,
sub.
it's just a portion of the BBC that like deals with like movies and film art and stuff. So yeah,
Okay.
it's the BBC's like artsy fartsy movie studies division, more or less.
Oh. Okay. Scorsese responded to whether Joker is more like art or more like a theme park. Hey, technically, a theme park it is technically an art itself. It,
Yeah, I mean I would hate to see Martin Scorsese walk up to Imagineers who are literally paid to imagine things for Disney and go, what you're doing is an art because I say so. Especially given that again, cinema used to be a literal theme park attraction back in the late 1800s.
yeah, I've actually gone to I've gone to a few theme parks in my years. God, my years. Why do I always talk like I'm really old? Whatever.
Because internally you've had a lot of life experience and a lot of internal dialogue, and so you, like me, I think would be classified as an old soul by other people.
Right. So when like I said, I've gone to theme parks, and for one thing, the rides, how they're designed, is artistically made to invoke emotions as you ride them.
Not to mention the actual technical acumen that goes into making them in the first place,
Oh
just
yeah.
on an engineering level.
Wait, did I ever tell you this story? And this is like a complete sidebar, but it's the kind of story that you would expect Weapon to tell on one of his streams. Uh,
Proceed.
so I'm sure everyone knows what Cedar Point is, right?
Vaguely.
It's in Illinois. It's in wait, is it Ohio or Illinois?
I think it's Ohio because I remember because when I was in school when I was in college in Ohio, I remember someone mentioning it.
Okay. So yeah, it's a theme park in Ohio. It's in
Hmm.
Ohio. It's a pretty big place, a pretty nice place too. I went on a few rides, but there was this the first one I went, which was called the Raptor, and this was back when I was in middle school. Like I think, yeah, I was eighth grade. I was graduating middle school. It was kind of like our last hurrah. So we went on a field trip.
Hmm.
I had to pay like $60 for a ticket to go.
Dang.
Yeah, it was
I
cool.
mean, it's not exorbitant for a theme park ticket, but still, that's quite a bit.
Well, that and also the charter bus and
Yeah, yeah, that seemed about right. I remember when we went on our senior trip in high school, it wound up being about the same thing, and we went to Virginia Beach. God, that was a fun trip.
yeah. So so first, I don't know if the Raptor's still there or not or whatever. I haven't been to there in a long time.
Hmm.
But anyway, I went there and I rode the Raptor. Granted, I don't remember much of the Raptor because it was like super fast. Also, I closed my eyes
Hmm.
most of it. But anyway, I'm walking down after we got off the Raptor, and there is this lady right by that booth. You go to look to see where your pictures are taken.
Hmm.
Well, not a lady, a girl, maybe a few years older than me. She is bawling her eyes out, right?
Hmm.
Because she is missing a chunk of her knee, and you can see her kneecap amongst the blood and stuff. It's like pure white in the red. Yeah, and yeah, she obviously she's bawling her eyes out, but she didn't. That didn't happen to her while she was riding the Raptor. It was happening after she was walking down the steps and like tripped and fell. Apparently,
That's the most anticlimactic part of that ever. Like you don't you don't have that happen from some dangerous roller coaster. No, you survive the dangerous roller coaster. Your enemies are stairs. That there is something both extremely ironic and humorous about that, but also in the same way I can see that happening to me because I also and this is the thing that me and a couple other friends I have that are disabled will often joke about. The greatest enemy of any physically disabled person is fucking gravity. Fucking gravity is terrible.
here,
Because
here.
when you're not coordinated, gravity is a son of a bitch.
Yeah, they
When you
closed. They closed the Raptor for a while after that. I was lucky I didn't eat anything before, because you don't eat something and go on a ride after that.
Mhm.
And I mean, I ate after that, like literally almost immediately after.
Yeah, that's the appropriate way around.
Well, you figured someone would lose their appetite after seeing that.
You would think, yes.
That was perfectly fine. I mean, I
But
had
it
like a
but better after than before because if you had seen it before, either that image probably would have made you throw up or the roller coaster itself would make you throw up.
yeah. I do remember one ride though that scared the hell out of me when I took it.
Hmm.
Power Tower. Now, does anyone know what a power tower is?
Is that the thing where you're like in the little bench on the like tower thing and you get bounced up and down?
Yeah, you get rocketed on one side, another it goes complete up and then it drops.
Ah.
I went on both. The one that scared me the most was getting rocketed up because I could feel myself kind of floating in my chair. Thank God I had the harness on, but god damn, that scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, randomly floating is one of those odd factors of theme park. When they meddle with the G forces, that's what happens.
I
Like
screamed, "Oh my god!" at the top of my lungs when I was at the top.
yeah, that also sounds kosher to me. Funny story. My sort of go-to theme park as a kid was this place. Oh, it's about I want to say 2 hours away from my house. Um, it's called Knoebels Grove, and it's like the um, third largest theme park in the country or something like that. Behind like Busch Gardens and Disney, obviously. Um, and the thing is, there they always had wooden roller coasters, not metal ones. And I don't know if anyone's ever ridden a wooden roller coaster, but take the kinds of stress from a metal roller coaster, amp it up by about 2 or 3 times. Because not only are the like G forces of the actual ride fucking with you, but the fucking jolting and shaking of the old wooden frame are fucking with you.
Jesus Christ,
And
that'd be terrifying.
and as we round the corner, and this is the other thing, it had like dozens upon dozens of these loop things, which is a stupid fucking decision. I'm not a really big ride person in general, and I only did this once, and it was a stupid fucking decision. I'm pretty sure the roller coaster we rode was called the Phoenix. There were two. There was the Phoenix and there was the Twister, and I don't think I was tall enough for the Twister at the time. But it literally almost pulls me out of the seat from how we're rounding this corner. Um, I am so glad that bar was there because I have always been a relatively slight individual. Like even now, I'm 5'4" and like maybe 130 some pounds. Like even now, and this was when I was. I don't even necessarily think I was a teenager yet. Like I was 12, maybe 13. And I almost get thrown out of the fucking cart because of the G forces. So yeah, the random floating is something I understand. And it probably wouldn't have been so bad if it wasn't again for also the ricketing back and forth as it did that. Fuck.
Yeah, the worst part is the anticipation for those types of rides, like as it's like either climbing, well, it's like climbing right
Hmm.
before right before it dips down.
Yeah.
That's the worst part for me, like the anticipation, like the fear growing.
I don't know. It depends on how bad the actual force you're jolted with when you're on your way down is. Because that's what I'm always afraid of. I'm always afraid of a hit. Because again, very 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 frail individual that's not exactly hefty. So like
Well,
when
yeah, for the power tower. That's what scared me when it was slowly climbing up, and I mean slowly.
just inching its way out, knowing it's about to fuck with you.
Yeah, it's like I don't know the size of like a 5 or 6 story building.
Hmm.
You go that high, you can basically see the entire theme park,
Hmm. Yeah,
and
my
it
my
stays there for like a minute or so. You don't know when the drop's coming, but you know it's coming.
and then when it finally does happen, it's like fuck this. Why did I make this decision?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons one of my favorite kinds of rides, and again, I'm not really a big ride person, but was always water rides like log flumes and stuff. Because like at least at the end, the massive hit was accompanied by getting soaked and wet, which for whatever reason has always appealed to me. Um, and always made it a little bit more fun. I think because it's both messy and clean at the same time, and something about that worked for me as a kid. I don't know.
Yeah, I went on a few water rides myself. I like to taking the slide down. Granted, I can
I
never
have
take the landing.
I have never done a water slide because I'm always afraid I'm gonna injure myself. Like I said, my preferred mechanism for the moisture is like log flumes and things like that.
Yeah, I could I could never get state the landing. Every time I'd hit the pool, I would fly off my tube into the pool.
I, I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh at you, but for
It's
whatever
funny, don't
reason,
get me wrong.
for whatever reason, that put the image in my head of number two from Codename Kids Next Door and his fucking piddly, piddly pathetic little inner tube that turned out to be really tricked out.
Yeah, I think I had one because I would go up. I went up there constantly when I started the water slide thing. I think I was there for like an hour just sliding down, going up, sliding down, going up.
Hmm.
I think at one time I did like I was like a skipping rock. Okay, that was a complete sidebar. Let's get back to Scorsese.
That was a very interesting sidebar, but we have um the musings of Martin Scorsese to deal with.
I feel
So
like we're gonna go on a few sidebars throughout this stream, just simply on the fact that the stupid we're gonna deal with. But we're gonna need to like cleanse ourselves.
probably
Yeah,
so let's get into the depths of the stupid so we have another excuse to cleanse ourselves.
right. All right. For me, ultimately, I don't know if I make the next step, which is this character developing into a comic book character. Scorsese said it develops into an abstraction. That doesn't mean it's bad art. It could be, but it's not for me. You follow? And that's different from the superhero films. It's very different. The Oscar winning director continued the superhero films, as I said, are like another art form. They're not easy to make. There are a lot of very talented people doing good work, and a lot of young people really enjoy them. But I do think it's more of an amusement park.
Okay, well, there are two things about that that stand out to me, and the first is fuck you just because you can't see that as a natural progression because you're not used to that kind of storytelling doesn't mean you should judge them any more harshly. Like it's just a kind of okay. I imagine, Martin, that when you were first starting out as a director, a lot of people said, you can't make serious mob movies. That's cliche pulpy shit. And to those people, I imagine you said something to the effect of, maybe not in as few words, but something to the effect of, fuck you, I can make awesome movies out of anything. And suddenly, that principle gets fucking thrown out the window by the notion that I just don't get superheroes because they're fundamentally different from every other kind of storytelling. And true, there are some ways in which the comic book genre is significantly different from all the other genres. That's what makes it a genre unto itself. But in terms of storytelling, you just need to get on board with the conceit of the world you're working in, just like every other fucking genre. Every Western probably gonna feature a shootout. Every mobster movie is probably gonna revolve around amoral guys in suits. Every action movie is gonna feature some action. Every horror movie is going to hopefully make people experience fear and intrigue, and every comic book movie is going to be a very wide, large scale, wide ranging movie. And just because you can't follow that character progression doesn't mean that character progression is invalid. It just means you have work to do. See, this is my issue. He sees him not being able to follow comic book movies as kind of comic book movies' fault. When in actuality, the appropriate way to look at that is, I can't see how comic book movie arcs work, so that's a fault with me. He refuses to hold up the mirror and actually point his point his criticism at himself rather than the art form that he's having a hard time dealing with. Because as an artist, you're supposed to train yourself to at least be able to appreciate all forms of art. But because this form of art wasn't covered apparently in his many years in film school and shit, he doesn't understand the language. But that's your job as a storyteller, to at least try to have an onboard understanding of the language of all stories. So if you fail to have one, that's a fault with you, not a fault with the storyteller. Deal with it. Moving on.
All right. Okay, Scorsese went to say that heads of studios have been trying to monetize their films as theme parks for decades, citing Universal Studios as an example. Scorsese also addressed why he did not end up producing Todd Phillips' Joker, which is influenced by Scorsese's Taxi Driver and King of Comedy. I decided I didn't have time for it. Personal reasons are why I didn't get involved, Scorsese explained. Still, Todd Phillips recently sat down with IGN to talk about how Scorsese helped Joker come to the big screen. For Phillips' explanation, check out the video below.
All right. Well, then I suppose we should banana.
God damn it. Oh no, okay. An ad. Alright, I'll just play through this.
Free one-day delivery on millions of items with Prime.
I used to think that my life was a tragedy, but now I realize it's a comedy.
It's widely known Joker is heavily influenced by Martin Scorsese's films Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy. Early reports even claim Scorsese would produce Joker, but even though that didn't happen.
Okay, minor bitching, irrelevant complaints, but whoever this news organization is that's doing this,
IGN.
let their chintzy pop techno music ruin the awesomeness that is the Joker trailer music. And on the behalf of all the other people who love the Joker as a movie, fuck you. Its music is better than yours. Fuck off.
Yeah, just listen to the theme Call Me Joker and Bathroom Dance on the soundtrack for Joker, like the original score.
Like, even in just those few seconds we got before their music kicked on, reminded me of how much I fucking love this movie. It is definitely my favorite movie of the year so far. And I don't expect anything else to be able to top it yet.
Honestly, there haven't been a lot of good movies this year.
Yeah, it's been kind of a weird year. The movies that have been good have been really fucking good, and there just haven't been very many of them.
Yeah.
I actually do really like the movie that came out last weekend, Doctor Sleep.
I have not seen that, nor really intended to. It's not my kind of movie.
I think you'll end up liking it because it's not exactly a straight up horror movie. Not exactly.
Oh, no, it's not that. It's just again, it's not really that kind of movie I often really think about going to. I guess I'm more like a action kind of adventure kind of guy. I mean,
you I expect you'll be able to get something out of Doctor Sleep. It's honestly weirdly action heavy for a horror movie.
So wait,
Although
banana.
we shall banana.
All right.
But here's how the master filmmaker still helped the DC film get made.
In full disclosure, I worship Martin Scorsese like most directors. I grew up worshiping Martin Scorsese. I happen to know him a little now, very little. I had lucky enough to have spent 3 hours with him one day of talking about movies, and it was
Okay, Todd Phillips gets some massive geek points here for just being this passionate about movies. Like, good on you, sir. But
the best day of my life, my filmmaking life. And so I felt bold enough to send him the script and ask him what he thought, and maybe he'd want to come on as an executive producer. He read the script and called me, and we had a great 20-minute conversation about the script, but also said, I can't do it because I'm doing Irishman. There were
okay, this is gonna sound really petty and annoying of me, but fuck the Irishman, seriously. Because as good as Joker is, I can't help but think that it might have been just that little bit better if Martin Scorsese had been directly involved. And if nothing else, it would have shut the fuck up of quite a few of the critics' controversies. I think. I think what few rough edges there are in Joker probably could have been finessed a little bit if Martin Scorsese was more directly involved. That being said, Joker is still the best movie of the year and one of the best movies in the last few years, in my opinion. And Todd Phillips needs no help, but probably would have benefited from a little bit anyway. But yeah, the notion that the only thing keeping Martin Scorsese from being involved with Joker is The Irishman makes me very pissed off at The Irishman, frankly, because by all accounts, The Irishman really isn't even all that good. And Joker is a better Scorsese movie than the movie that Scorsese actually apparently made in the last year. But yeah, banana.
we literally filmed them back to back, meaning he did Irishman and we shot Joker, but he was knee deep in prep for that epic Irishman, which I can't wait to see. But we had a nice conversation about the script on the phone. He told me what he loved about it. He told me, I don't necessarily want to talk about what we talked about, but it was amazing for me. And then I asked him, could I take Emma? She's Marty's producer for.
Okay, again, lots of respect for Todd Phillips in this instance for just film geeking all the fuck over the life. Good on you, banana.
Since Departed, she's the queen of New York. She runs New York movies because she works for Marty, and she has the best crews, relationships with the MTA. I'm going to geek out now with you for a minute. And he graciously let Emma go, and she produced Joker after Irishman, so she's having a great year.
You are not wrong, but you are being very humble, and I have to commend you for being very humble there, Todd. But in my humble opinion, Joker is the better of the two movies. You managed to equal one of your idols, dude. That's not to say again that Joker wouldn't have been better with Martin Scorsese directly involved with it, because it probably would have been. But as it stands, you made one of the best movies, I would probably say, of the decade. It's definitely in the top 10 of the decade. It's right up there with her and The Martian and Shape of Water, which are probably my top 3 of the last decade. So yeah.
Out of those, I've only seen Joker and The Martian.
I would highly recommend the others. They are very good.
No, I wanted to see Shape of Water, but I didn't have the time to.
Shape of Water is probably the weakest of the three, or I guess now the four, because it does dip a little bit too much into messaging and commentary, but it's still Guillermo del Toro doing a monster movie romance. Like there are very few ways this could have gone wrong, and in many of those ways it went perfectly right. So yeah. And of course that movie looks immaculate, and Doug Jones frankly deserves an acting Oscar for exactly the same reason as Andy Serkis does. I don't know if he got one.
becomes the character.
Yeah, he's such a master of how to work with makeup effects that I can't even.
He actually studied vaudeville.
Which given some of the movements the creature does in Shape of Water doesn't surprise me. Yeah, but Todd, I appreciate your humility, sir, but you did manage to make a movie that is better than a Martin Scorsese movie. If I'm just comparing Joker to The Irishman, Joker takes the cake 1,000 times over. Because I've seen The Irishman, and The Irishman is one of Scorsese's weaker pieces, and Joker would have been one of Scorsese's stronger pieces had he actually been involved with it. And I do love that his crew, or parts of his crew, were still involved there, which makes a lot of sense as far as everything goes. Banana.
But so she did the shooting of Irishman. He was going to go get lost in the editing room like every director does. And he gave us Emma to use, which was amazing because I can't say enough good things about this woman who ran the production for us.
You just for more Joker.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, back to the things, if there is any more of the things.
Right. A slew of people have responded to Scorsese's original comments about the MCU. Disney CEO Bob Iger even weighed in, saying that Scorsese's and Francis Ford Coppola's comments about Marvel movies were so disrespectful. I wouldn't go that far. It's a critique. I mean, again, they can say what they want. It's more, does it have any actual basis in fact? Is my thing.
I'll give them that. I'll give them that Martin Scorsese and in particular Francis Ford Coppola were kind of being dicks, because Coppola did literally call Marvel movies despicable, which just damn. But and again, I can kind of see where they're coming from, because these are their movies, and more importantly, these are their movies that are currently kind of single-handedly saving Hollywood from going bankrupt at the time. So there's that. Because a lot of people, I think that if the Marvel movies weren't around, people would just go to different movies. And from everything I know about most people who I know that are like massive film fans, a lot of them, in the absence of something like the MCU, probably would just not go to the theater as often. So the fact that Marvel is basically what's keeping the film industry on life support has to kind of count for something, especially given that this has been an experiment of theirs that's been going on for more than 10 years now, with more than 6 franchises interwoven. That's quite a feat on a technical level, whatever you think of the actual content. And yes, I think Marvel has been going on autopilot a little bit recently. Hopefully,
Yeah.
Joker kicking all of the ass will kick Marvel in the nuts and remind them why they make movies. Hopefully.
Hmm. You tell me Ryan Coogler making Black Panther is doing something that is somehow or other less than what Marty Scorsese or Francis Ford Coppola have done on any one of their movies. Come on, there, I said it. Iger added.
Bad example. Very monumentally bad example.
I mean,
Because
we have talked about Black Panther at times. It's not a great movie, but it has its. There are. It's a lot. It's a lot like I say. Good ideas, little bit poor execution.
I'll admit that I am looking forward to Black Panther 2, though.
Yeah,
Just
I
to see
am
what-
just curious if they're. I'm just curious to see if they can at least try to improve the flaws that are with Black Panther, like the first one.
And I think there's enough in Infinity War in particular to suggest that they know a little bit more about how the character works now. In the same way that I really hope Doctor Strange 2 will be an improvement on the 2016 one, because they've had Ragnarok and Infinity War and tiniest bit in Endgame to sort of get a feel for the character and how the character actually is supposed to work. Some of Benedict Cumberbatch's interviews on the matter have made me want to bash my head into a brick wall, like a fucking homicidal ostrich. But that's neither here nor there. Hopefully, Scott Derrickson at least knows the character a little bit better than the poor casting that has been covered. I'm gonna fucking harp on this point until he learns to fucking act. Especially given there's some universe somewhere where instead of Benedict Cumberbatch, we could have gotten Joaquin Phoenix as Doctor Strange. I know it's good for the medium and it's good for art in general for him to play Joker, but there's still that little butthurt fanboy part of me that's like, you mean to tell me we could have had this, but Doctor Strange? What the fuck is wrong with everyone? Okay. Meaningless fanboy gripe over. Banana. Or I guess not banana because no video, but still. Moving on.
Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn, Samuel Jackson, Natalie Portman, and Robert Downey Jr. have also shared their thoughts on Scorsese's comments, each with a different take.
I am curious what James Gunn said.
Alright, I will open that in another tab.
Because, like, it's sad, but of those listed, I really only respect Kevin Feige and James Gunn. I don't really give a shit what RDJ said about this particular thing. I respect his opinions on a lot of other things, but he doesn't really have a stake in this. This is a directorial / artistic / creative fight, not a execution fight. So, though I will admit I've seen cases I think where RDJ tried to kind of direct and it was fine, but it wasn't particularly special.
Okay, so they have some pictures here of the tweets. So let me read the first one. Martin Scorsese is one of my 5 favorite living filmmakers. I was outraged when people picketed The Last Temptation of Christ without having seen the film. I'm saddened that he's now judging my films in the same way.
Okay, well played, James.
Yeah. Then someone had to say something to James and basically saying that he's comparing religious protest to Scorsese saying the MCU movies are theme park rides. right? He's saying, no, I'm comparing people judging films they haven't seen to people judging films they haven't seen.
Okay, but isn't it kind of the same in the sense that you're making an arbitrary appeal to authority regardless? Like you're taking this random concept that you've defined as unassailable and judging art by metrics that it wasn't even made to account for. It's kind of like judging movies based on how well they live up to social justice. Like, no one said that a prerequisite for good movies was living up to your morality. Fuck off. And in the
Are you
same
talking,
way,
are you talking about James Gunn, or are you talking about Martin Scorsese?
no, I'm kind of defending the comparison of religious protests to Martin Scorsese being a dipshit. And in both cases, it's where this art doesn't live up to my arbitrary authority standard that I've raised up above criticism, and doesn't have anything really to do with the objective qualities of the movies in question. It's like when you start judging art based on arbitrary criteria rather than the actual content of said art, you are a fuckwit. Whether your justification is religious, ideological, or just authoritarian in general. In my humble opinion, anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was pretty much the end of the article.
So next, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of like a palate cleanser for us before getting to a real stupid article. I'll give the audience guesses on where the article comes from. But this Screen Rant, movies we want after Joker by Cooper Hood. Okay, there was a video, but I don't. There was a video.
I don't think. Oh.
But we're not going to check it out just because I think it's just basically someone reading the article itself.
The TLDR version, basically.
I think so.
Yeah. That means too long didn't read. If you didn't know that already.
I did not. Now I do. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Now that Joker is a certifiable hit for Warner Brothers and DC Films, here are other standalone movies we want to see. The Joaquin Phoenix starring film served as a valuable test subject for studios who have spent years getting a cinematic universe up and running. That this hasn't been the easiest task in the world, though, and Joker represents them attempting to capitalize on the DC brand in different ways.
Okay, that's fair.
I mean, if you want to see someone kind of copying Marvel but also doing something different, check out some of the stuff I had done for my own version of DC Cinematic Universe on my original channel, Brainstorm Pop Culture.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I had to get that plug in there. I need views.
Channel, man.
I need views, people.
Yes, we all need views. This is the currency that we must bribe the YouTube gods with. So, yeah.
As Batman's biggest villain, Joker has become one of the most recognizable antagonists in history. But one of the main selling points for Joker from those involved is how it is an original take on the character and not one heavily tied to DC mythos.
To that I say bollocks. It's very, very clearly taking its cues from Killing Joke. It's just also very heavily taking its cues from King of Comedy. But if you had to make a Joker movie without Batman in it, King of Comedy would not be a very bad template, especially given how similar it is to the Killing Joke. That's why Joker works. Not because it forgoes DC lore, but because it figured out how to translate DC lore properly.
This is mostly true as Joker gives the Clown Prince of Crime an entirely new origin while keeping key ingredients like the Wayne family in a Gotham setting.
And like 90% of the Killing Joke backstory. Why did I wouldn't be harping on this except for the fact that Killing Joke is probably the definitive Joker origin story, and they've just expunged their heads of it apparently. The entire Joker movie could basically be summed up as Killing Joke plus King of Comedy plus a little bit of Heath Ledger's Joker. Done. And the schizophrenic subplot from Fight Club. Because
what I'm curious to see after Joker's become such a success.
Mm-hmm.
To see what kind of rip-offs come up from it.
I'm not looking forward to the rip-offs because...
Well, part of me is curious to see if one can at least be...
If they can understand what went right well enough to actually replicate it. Yeah, I totally agree.
You know what? I'm sure people know what the Asylum is, right? Like that very low budget rip-off.
Yeah, every film fan probably knows what the Asylum is.
Yeah. Well, for one thing, they actually made Z Nation, which is a really good show, in my opinion. Like, it's a zombie apocalypse show, but it just has this sense of fun to it. Anyway, because they've done rip-offs to Avengers, Avengers Grimm, I believe, where they use the Grimm fairy tale characters.
Which I still haven't seen, although I really need to.
I've seen it. It's a good idea. I think mainly problem was they just didn't care.
Well, I mean, half the time the Asylum is directly parodying stuff, so it might just be they were trying to be funny.
It's kind of edgelord stuff in that movie. Anyway, and they also ripped off Suicide Squad with villains, with like fairy tale villains.
Interesting.
I think it was called Criminal Crew.
Fun.
Yeah.
We'll have to look that up as well, I think.
But I am curious to see if they can at least attempt to try and do Joker.
I'm betting the Joker we'll get from them will be more Jared Leto and less Joaquin Phoenix, unfortunately. Even as they're shooting for Joaquin Phoenix, they'll land somewhere in the vicinity of Jared Leto. But it'll still be better than Jared Leto's Joker.
I really think he gets a little too much fun. No, we're not doing that.
I mean, he does, but at least some of it he brought out on himself by being a completely pansy-ass whiner about Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. Like, don't make this movie or I'll never work with you again. Okay, but it's a better idea. What do you want us to do? Don't make this movie because I say so. Why?
Okay. Yeah. All of this was used by director Todd Phillips to do a low-budget character study movie masked with DC branding. And after early critical praise and plenty of discussion online in the lead-up to the film's release, it continued breaking box office records by becoming the highest-grossing R-rated movie of all time.
Yes, and will probably be the first R-rated movie to ever gross more than $1 billion.
Right. The success of Joker has mostly spawned primarily talks of whether or not a sequel could happen, but it also could result in WB and DC thinking about other characters who could get a similar treatment. The good news for them is that there is no shortage of DC characters to choose from, and not all of them have to be focused on bad guys. These standalone films could benefit from reinventing recognizable characters from DC lore through different genres and keeping them free of an ongoing continuity. With this in mind, here are the standalone DC films we'd love to see get made.
See, I think that might be a mistake. That's a mistake I see being made a lot. If you build a DC Black Label continuity, you make all of those interwoven together. That's what you should do. You should make it a separate continuity from the mainline DC Extended Universe, but you should still weave all of the Black Label movies together.
You know what I want to see?
Mm-hmm.
Like a different continuity compared to the main line. I want to see an Earth 3 continuity.
As in where all the villains are heroes and all the heroes are villains and so forth?
Yep.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I had actually tried writing a script for like a short film as one is like a proof of concept for a movie, and two is like just kind of like a DC fan film.
Mm-hmm. Although, I will say this, if I get a Dr. Chaos movie before I get a Dr. Fate movie, there will be no more logic in the universe.
Oh no, it was a Red Hood movie. Well, like Earth 3 Red Hood.
Yeah. Earth 3's Dr. Fate is evil and powered by a Lord of Chaos.
Well, yeah, it makes sense, opposite and all.
Yeah, and his name is Dr. Chaos. So if they go ahead with the Earth 3 universe, I don't want to get a Dr. Chaos movie before I get a Dr. Fate movie. So what needs to happen is that
have Dr. Fate and Shazam too.
No. See, what I would do, because they have a plan of doing a Black Adam movie set in the 1940s and having him fight the Justice Society. So establish the Justice Society in that movie, and then give each of the Justice Society members their own movie. And that is how I want to get a Dr. Fate movie. And then after that, then you can give me a Dr. Chaos movie, which is something so colossally nerdy I never thought I would see, but I want it. I just don't want it before its original counterpart. But anyway, moving on.
Penguin.
I don't think so. They kind of tried to do that, at least partially, in Batman Returns, and I don't think you're going to be able to do it better than Batman Returns.
And that was so cool. I loved, Danny DeVito.
Yeah,
he's nowadays he's most primarily known for his great comedic performance as Frank Reynolds in It's
Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know why, but I was going to say Sunny with a Chance of Philadelphia.
Because Sunny with a Chance was like a Disney Channel sitcom?
No, just I don't know why. I just thought that's what the show's name was, Sunny with a Chance of Philadelphia. Like, just...
Okay, now someone needs to make that a thing.
Yeah. But anyway, he brought some... he was very comedic as Oliver Cobblepot in Batman Returns. No, not Batman Returns.
Oswald, not Oliver.
I said Oswald.
I thought I heard you say Oliver. Never mind.
It's Batman Returns, right? But
yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen that movie. So
the movie that had both Danny DeVito's Penguin and Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, which I'm pretty sure jump-started a bunch of people puberty early. Because, goddamn, she was hot in that movie.
Okay. But yeah, while he was very comedic, I think he also had like a gravitas towards him as well.
Mm-hmm. and a very like the movie opens with his bassinet going down a river into the sewers.
Yeah, and the way he passes too is hauntingly beautiful.
Yeah, the penguins essentially eulogizing him by pulling him into the water.
Yeah. God, that movie was good.
Yeah, I so wish that Batman Forever and Batman and Robin had been Tim Burton directed.
I honestly would have liked to see what he would have done for the Superman movie.
Well, that's the other thing. If Tim Burton had stayed on doing superhero movies, we probably could have had the DC extended universe like 2 decades ago. But and we also probably would never have gotten Dark Knight. So
Yeah.
swings and roundabouts. I do love Heath Ledger's Joker, but I don't know if I love him more than the possibility of a complete Batman trilogy or quadrilogy from Tim Burton and a Tim Burton's DC universe. Like,
Mhm.
that's about as close as we'll probably ever be able to get to a live action version of the DC animated universe. So, want. So very, very want.
You know what I would like to see from Tim Burton in terms of like superhero movie? Wonder Woman. I would have loved to see his like kind of style for that character. Just
Would
that
not have been my first choice. My first choice would have been Tim Burton's The Shadow.
yeah. I don't know. It's just I mean, like I'm talking like if he was to helm back then, if he was to helm like a complete universe based on like his 89 Batman movie.
Right. But okay. That being said, I have one that will do better than all of the rest. Tim Burton's Et Friggin' the Demon. That movie would have kicked ass.
Yes, it would have. And we went on a complete sidebar, and we're not even into the first character yet.
Yeah, moving. Well, I mean, it's not quite a sidebar. We're talking about the thing that they're talking about. It's just not. It's just not quite their options. But anyway, let's get into their justification.
Okay.
I disagree with this as the first choice though. Would not probably be my first choice.
All right. Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin, is perfectly suited to lead a movie of his own. Audiences are already familiar with him thanks to Burgess Meredith playing the role in Adam West Batman, Danny DeVito's portrayal from Batman Returns, and Robert Lord Taylor playing him on Gotham. He'll also be featured in Matt Reeves' The Batman in some capacity. Despite this exposure, he could certainly receive even more attention through a solo film. Thanks to his crime lord status, Penguin movie done in the style of classic gangster films could be a compelling avenue to go down.
See, now that wouldn't be my choice to do a Penguin movie. If we're tailoring the style of movie to the character, which is how it should be done, and Joker's best avenue was doing Killing Joke by way of King of Comedy, my approach would be the Penguin done through the lens of It's a Wonderful Life. As in, imagine a version of It's a Wonderful Life where Mr. Potter is the good guy and we're following Mr. Potter. That is how you do a Penguin, in my opinion. If we're going with a very with a very classical Penguin. If we're going for a more Danny DeVito Penguin, then again, I don't think he'd be able to do better than Danny DeVito did. I'm willing to be proved wrong, but I have my doubts.
Since WB and DC are riding high on inspirations from Martin Scorsese and Joker, some of his gangster films could once again be a point of reference for a Penguin song.
Okay, see, no, this is where you're going wrong. Do not simply make a bunch of Scorsese-ish movies and have DC characters in them. Again, tailor the style of movie to the character and how that character's essence translates to movies properly. Again, my vote would be Penguin via It's a Wonderful Life, where Mr. Potter is the good guy and the main character. And don't avoid setting it at Christmas, because I think the snow motif could really work. But you wouldn't necessarily have to set it at Christmas. I do think setting it during winter would probably be a good idea.
I do think there is a Penguin movie on YouTube, like a fan film. It's like a full length movie.
Fun.
Bird of Prey, I believe. Like Penguin Bird of Prey.
I feel like that title is gonna get ruined here in a few months. Wait. You do realize we're gonna have to review that. Because for as much as we have talked about that movie, we have to
We
give
have
the
to.
final
I
verdict.
know we have to. Is it bad that I want to start drinking now? Because I know I have to review that movie.
Just over 2 years, and then you can drink legally, my friend.
Yeah.
And hell, if 5 consecutive hours of Batwoman didn't drive you to drink, then how bad can Birds of Prey be? He
Well,
asked.
to be fair, I would pause it and do something else for like an hour or so before I went back to an episode.
Okay, fair, but still, like, how bad could it be? He asked, knowing full well how bad it could be and hoping it wasn't that bad. Knocking on wood.
Okay. This could be a rise to power gangster story showing becoming Penguin, but we'd also be interested in an aged Penguin nearing the end of his days lording over Gotham. Actually, I had written, when Gotham came to an end, I said I'd be doing like a rewrite for the final episode.
Mm-hmm.
I'd actually written Penguin to kind of be somewhat classical Penguin, but still kind of in line with the Penguin of Gotham.
Mm-hmm.
Though I did come up with a design for the character. And it involved black, white, and royal purple.
Well, yeah, his Penguin.
Yeah. I didn't get to write much of him. Like I only wrote him for like one scene. Then I scrapped the script for that. Unfortunately.
So in other words, you gave Penguin the cold shoulder.
Yeah, I feel bad because I think that script would have been really cool because technically it could have been a full movie script.
Well, I at the very least hope the character isn't blubbering to himself now.
Okay.
I'm assuming by the quiet that I'm getting the look.
Nope, no look. I've gotten used to it, honestly.
Well, good. I have taught you something about endurance.
All right, Mr. Freeze.
All of the yes. because of Heart of Ice.
What about Sub-Zero?
Well, Sub-Zero too, but Sub-Zero was basically just, what if we took Heart of Ice and made it a movie? Which is not a wrong decision, but fucking hell.
Wait a minute.
Heart of Ice.
I think I had a movie idea for that. Can't remember what it was called. Like for a Batman movie, I think I had one where it introduced Tim Drake's Robin. Yeah, Batman: A Cold Heart.
Fun.
Thank you. So, okay, another movie we'd be interested in seeing is a standalone tale for Victor Freeze, aka Mr. Freeze. Why isn't he called Dr. Freeze? You know, he's a doctor.
Because assumedly he saw all the other villains with Doctor in their name and decided to make himself distinctive.
Alright. The character has not been done justice on the big screen to this point, thanks Batman and Robin, but could
Agreed.
be the focal point of a compelling and tragic love story. Prior to becoming a Batman villain, Freeze is a scientist who begins searching for a cure for his terminally ill wife, Nora. He discovers that putting her in cryostasis can preserve Nora until he finds a cure. A man desperate to save his wife and going to various extremes to do what he thinks is necessary could be the foundation for this solo film.
Yes. And as long as we're keeping up the theme of picking what sort of subcategory to put it in to epitomize the movie, Mr. Freeze via Frankenstein. Not the 1940s movie, the actual book, and the versions that are based on the actual book.
A part of me wants to say like maybe the first act should be kind of building the relationship of Victor and Nora, and then like in the second act he kind of finds out, or like flashbacks or something.
Well, yeah, I think. Well, actually, no. I have a better option. Mr. Freeze via Sweeney Todd, because that gives you your love story, your lost story, and your driven to madness in order to avenge them story. So, yeah.
Who would you have play Freeze? That's the question.
Honestly, if I could pick anyone in the world, Anthony Hopkins.
You fucking genius.
I have my moments sometimes.
I feel like there would have to be an actor, because you already picked Anthony Hopkins. I do think you need an actor who can kind of have a Shakespearean air to them, like has experience in Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm. I think given this would have to be an older Victor Freeze, because Hopkins. For Nora, I would pick Helen Mirren.
Helen Mirren.
Fucking cannibals, $80.
Okay. I'm just looking up Helen Mirren. Oh, okay. I've seen her before, so.
You've in fact seen her on this show because she played the female version of Prospero in that one clip from The Tempest I showed you.
Right. I was honestly, I remember her from Red.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, I don't know if I think I'd choose a little young on the younger side. Maybe I can't say Andy Serkis. I think he'd be pretty good.
For Freeze,
Yeah,
I assume.
he's a really great actor, and I think plus Mr. Freeze, like for the suit and stuff, it's kind of uh,
I think my second choice for Mr. Freeze would be Matt Mickelson.
Mads,
If you can't,
how the
if-
fuck did I forget Mads Mikkelsen?
if you can't do Anthony Hopkins, then go for the second best Hannibal.
Yeah. Hmm.
And then for his Nora, I'd go with Charlize Theron.
Huh. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I'm also trying to think of another actor who kind of would be kind of an actor out of left field, comparably. Like, okay,
Okay, you want a left field option? Kelsey Grammer.
Kelsey Grammer.
Frasier, Sideshow Bob, Beast in X-Men 3.
Oh, okay. All right, that's Well, I don't know. For some reason, I was thinking, if I'm to think SJW casting where it's like a race swap character, but again, I'm more picking on merit as an actor.
Okay. Black.
I want to say Idris Elba because I think he's a really good actor. Just like he's one of my favorite actors, and I think he can really do it.
I think Chiwetel Ejiofor, because Idris Elba, a lot of his acting has to deal with passion and like anger, and Mr. Freeze is supposed to be elegant
Well,
and cold
yeah.
personified. So,
Okay. Well, also, I just think that would be a good acting, like, good chance for him to stretch his acting muscles then.
well, but I don't think he's posh enough. I think Chiwetel Ejiofor has that sort of that grandiose gentlemanliness that Mr. Freeze has to have.
Okay. You know what? You know what? Who I actually think would be kind of a good choice. It's someone you actually don't think is a good choice for a role.
Say it.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
I knew as soon as you hesitated that was where this was going.
Any complaints or criticisms, or because my reasoning is that I do agree, like he somewhat comes off as kind of robotic in his acting, which I think is kind of intentional. But from what I've seen of Sherlock, not the later seasons, but the early seasons.
Okay, so if I must abide by Benedict Cumberbatch, then his Nora is most definitely Eva Green.
Who?
Morgan in the Star Show Camelot. Miss Peregrine from Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children.
Oh, okay.
The one badass bitch from the 300 sequel.
You forgot Penny Dreadful.
Also her.
Wait a minute, she's French?
Yeah.
Huh.
The one time we've heard her use her actual accent was in the intro scene to the Dark Shadows movie. And then they made her stupidly American for the whole rest of the damn thing.
Right. So yeah, those are kind of our picks and stuff, and just honestly, I think they should do a Mr. Freeze movie after Joker. That seems more logical, and I think that character has a lot more.
Yeah, they should, but I do not want the next. I think they should wait a while. After a couple of the non-villain movies have solidified themselves.
All right, so the next one is Lex Luthor.
No, there's unless you do it with Bryan Cranston and you have it be sort of like a Wall Street insider trading movie where Luthor is Gordon Gekko. I can't see that working. I can see it working if you do exactly that. If you do a Wall Street insider trading movie where Luthor fills the Gordon Gekko role and it's played by Bryan Cranston, then maybe. But in general, Luthor is one of the villains I would avoid like the fucking plague. Because there's not much there. I feel like that's just there because he's a major villain and reasons. But in general, I would much rather either a villain that works with the format of DC Black Label or a non-villain that works. And I don't want them to over rely on villains.
Ahsoka Tano Gaming, how are you? He says, "Hey there, guys. What are we talking about? We're talking about movies that could get standalone. We're talking about characters that could get like the Joker treatment in terms of standalone movies
for DC Black Label.
Yeah. So far, we've covered Penguin and Mr. Freeze, and now we're talking about Lex Luthor. So let's see the guy's reasoning.
Okay.
All right. Lex Luthor has had plenty of screen time over the years, but he also presents WB and DC with the opportunity to tell an incredibly relevant standalone story if they choose to do so.
I feel like relevant in this case applies to Trump because Orange bad. And that scares me.
All right.
Again, of all the ones on this list so far, I think this one is the stupidest idea.
I mean, I would be willing to, except, I'm willing.
The only way I can see this working is if they do, like I said, like they do a Wall Street insider trading type movie where
to be honest, Lex Luthor kind of doesn't work without Superman.
Well, but they said the same thing about Joaquin Phoenix Joker and Batman. So
that's true, but to be fair, Lex Luthor, like his philosophy revolves around Superman, believing that with Superman being there for humanity grows weaker as a species.
Okay, so this is how you do that. You remember Brightburn?
Yeah.
You do a Lex Luthor movie where Superman is the villain in Lex Luthor's mind. He basically sees Superman as a Brightburn type character rather than how we see him. But the main cut and thrust of the movie should be, like I say, a Wall Street type movie where Lex is filling the Gordon Gekko role.
All right, so we're talking. He says Joker can work without Batman in terms of philosophy. Yeah, but I don't know. Lex Luthor, I just think he's maybe it's because I've seen Smallville and
This is the problem. There's not enough of Luthor to make a solo movie out of. I don't think,
well,
unless you add a bunch of shit.
well,
Joker worked
apparently in the
perfectly.
comics he grew up in the slums of Metropolis, where he was abused by his parents, and then he killed his parents by messing with like the brakes in their car.
Yeah, and that was a very stupid origin from what I remember. So, I really hated this idea. And unfortunately, it appears to be the one that they're actually going ahead with, because fuck me.
Right.
They never learn.
So the wealthy businessman has gone on to become the president of the United States of America in the comics, which has obvious parallels to recent events. The film could be a direct commentary on the current state of the presidency, dive into the intricacies of making such a political run similar to House of Cards, or explore what someone like Lex would do with this much power.
Why? 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 Why did I have to call it? Why? Fuck.
House of Cards ain't a bad show, though, from what I've seen.
No, but like, you realize what they're asking for, don't you?
Bashing a Trump, yeah.
They're asking for an anti-Trump propaganda piece in the same vein as Joker somehow. I don't. But fuck. The main play with Joker was making the Joker understandable, rational, and sympathetic in context. How are you gonna? Fuck me. This. I just so much. That that may be the wrongest thing I've ever read on this show. Fuck.
Okay, oh god, no, that is just stupid. Plus, also Lex has become a hero. He's not a villain anymore in the comics. Hey, why not do something like the Social Network in terms of him building up LexCorp, and that he
Ironically, that would make Eisenberg's Lex Luthor make sense.
he's more of an anti-hero.
Oh God.
A part of me, yeah, just the idea is that story-wise, it goes that he is a good guy at the beginning, but in terms of like him wanting power and kind of greed overtaking him, he kind of sacrifices everything.
And then you introduce a Brightburn-esque Superman, and all is right with the world. But fuck, I'm mildly hungover from the stupid.
Right. Who knows? It could even explore his sometimes heroic turns to put Lex in a completely different light. In any case, Lex has what it takes to be the centerpiece of a Joker-like movie.
I vehemently disagree, especially if you're just gonna orange man bad, or in this case, bald man bad.
Bald men get no respect nowadays. Ask England.
Although, did he ever, honestly?
Huh?
Was there ever a time where he got respect?
England? Oh yeah, I respect him.
Well, yeah, we do, but as a general rule.
Probably not. Think of him like Vegeta to Superman's Goku. He's talking about the Lex.
Yeah.
Wait, which Vegeta are we talking about? Like canon Vegeta or her bridge Vegeta?
Well, they're very similar characters.
Oh, right. So Scarecrow's up next, and yeah.
I feel the need to concede the floor to you because this is your niche of expertise.
Yeah. Well, we did see that Scarecrow trailer, I believe, like last week.
Mm-hmm. Though
And
I don't think it quite works.
the fan trailer for a Scarecrow movie centered.
Mhm.
I think mainly they should because I'm sure everyone remembers Gotham, right? Like the Scarecrow, he wasn't as developed as I wish he could have been.
Mhm.
So let's read this. One more Batman villain that could be the star of an intriguing standalone film is Dr. Jonathan Crane, aka Scarecrow. Ideally, we'd be interested in Scarecrow in a Scarecrow film that is based around the horror the character can bring. So basically, like the trailer was.
See, that wouldn't be the route I would go with the kind of horror though. My thinking would be superhero version of Trick or Treat as a Scarecrow movie. With the Scarecrow playing kind of the Sam role.
Where essentially people are seeing their worst fears, and Scarecrow's kind of like a guy in the background taking notes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You could even have it be a similar design because, of course, Sam's design is very Scarecrow-esque.
I don't know. I kind of want to see him with like the big black rim hat, kind of similar to the new Adventures of Batman, like the animated series. How they kind of look,
Mhm.
where it looks like kind of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre character.
But imagine basically a adult version of Sam in a possible universe where Sam could grow up, and there's your Scarecrow design.
A little too simplistic, but it's just, again, I'm more of a gravitas and costumes.
Mhm.
Ahsoka Tano Gaming, I'd go with a Trick or Treat movie. So an anthology of different people where it kind of connects at the end, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was mostly talking about in terms of tone.
Yeah. Okay. So a goofy, yet also really well.
A dark comedy that features fear, basically sort of Trick or Treat meets Saw.
Yeah. So like what the trailer was going for last week.
Not quite. I think they leaned a little bit too heavy on the um
Saw attribute.
on the visceral gore aspect rather than the psychological comeuppance. Because like the thing that has always intrigued me about Scarecrow is kind of the ironic punishment aspect of it, like what your fear says about you and how it relates to you as a person, kind of thing. And that's more intellectual than literal.
So Ahsoka Tano Gaming, yep, or just one movie with multiple people taking on the role at once. Could you could you kind of expand upon that idea? Because I'm not entirely sure what she means. But okay, so his fear-inducing chemicals and the manifestations they cause would be perfect for the type of horror film WB subsidiary studio New Line Cinema has become known for with the It franchise.
That is not the route I would go. I would not go an it route with Scarecrow.
Yeah.
I'd go the it route with Mr. Mixie as Pit Link. That would be interesting, but not Scarecrow.
Huh. Okay, so and then one person coming out on top. Have it be like a case of multiple personality disorder. Like you got four or five personalities for the Scarecrow.
So similar to the Horde from Split and Glass, that with like the Scarecrow being the mastermind personality.
primary.
Kind of resembling Patricia from Glass and Split is sort of how I'm imagining, because it basically be like, what if instead of the Beast as the main personality, what if Mr. Glass himself was the main personality of Kevin Rendell-Crumb?
Mm-hmm. In many ways, Scarecrow could present them with a new Pennywise-like villain to base any number of haunted concepts around. This film would require a slightly larger budget to accommodate for Scarecrow's powers, but the results could be worth it.
I don't know. You can get away with a lot from just good editing and good use of sort of camera tricks.
Yeah. I mean, Blumhouse does it. I mean, they have okay budgets. It's just, I think compared to a lot of modern movies, yeah, it's smaller.
And definitely, you could definitely do a lot with, because like,
you know what? I would honestly, I think a story where Scarecrow's kind of an urban legend, a shadow that stalks in the grimy back alleys of Gotham.
Again, kind of Trick or Treat-esque is what I'm seeing there.
Yeah.
And honestly, come to think of it, I would want a Scarecrow movie to be set on Halloween.
I mean, kind of a given. Or at least in October, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so moving on. This is kind of a weird one. Red Sun Superman.
No, that's right. Like, Brightburn has already covered that territory. And what territory Brightburn hadn't covered, the boys is covering. So there.
Okay, stepping away from villains, though, these standalone films also prevent WB and DC to do something different with some of their heroes. At the moment, the studio has not revealed what the future holds for Superman in the shared universe. So we'd love to see him get a solo film in a brand new context.
Okay, but again, that's already been done with Brightburn, and it didn't quite hit the mark in the first place. So why?
Mm-hmm. And adaptation.
And if you're going for the powerless version of Superman, the best route I could think to go would be like a Mad Max-esque kind of thing.
No, it's Red Sun, as in like the Russian communist Superman.
And again, kind of an evil Superman is already done with the boys and Brightburn. So like, what new ground exactly are you going to be treading here? And also, if you're gonna introduce characters, have at least some of these be characters that haven't been done to death already. Like, I get that the Joker is the Joker, but one of the things that makes the Joker great is that there are so many different interpretations of the Joker that each one is a new character, kind of in the same vein. So like, I have an idea, and I've talked about this on Twitter, for what I would want my preferred DC Black Label movie to be. But I'm gonna save it for the end, just to see if they get it before I share it.
All right. An adaptation of Red Sun Superman could be a great way to go, showing audiences what it would be like if Kal-El was raised in Russia instead of by the Kents in Kansas. Kong Skull Island director Jordan Vogt Roberts, I am sure I mispronounced that second name, and I'm sorry, previously pitched the studios such a film, so this could be one route the studio could take. And if Superman isn't part of their plans for the DCEU, then this would be a great way to keep him on the big screen, but unlike how he's ever been shown before.
I think you're reaching, and I think this would probably be overly expensive and exactly the opposite of what the Joker is. So wrong.
So I think. Wait, is this the last one? I think. Yeah, this is the last one. Batman Beyond. That is not going to be a low budget movie.
I can see where they're going with this. I think where they'd end up going with this is like DC, the superhero equivalent of Blade Runner.
Yeah,
Is
that's
how
what I was thinking too, and I would like to see that because I love Batman Beyond. It's like the Batman cartoon I grew up watching. Besides the
Mhm.
Batman,
Mhm.
actually, I think I saw Return of the Joker first, and then I started watching the show when it was like on reruns on Cartoon Network.
Ah.
Still pretty good.
Hmm.
But I don't think it works if you're talking like treatment of the Joker.
Unless you do a very small scale version of it, kind of like what was that movie? Upgrade from a couple years ago.
I think I know what you're talking about. Didn't really see it, but or be a high budget. Batman Beyond would have to be animated or be a high budget show.
So you've already broken your own rule at the last spot.
Yeah.
Why the fuck am I not surprised? You know, when your only job is to make articles based on lists, you really should apply yourself to that exact feature. Like, really? Or just don't bother. Anyway, let's finish this and then I will give my my pitch for a DC Black Label movie.
Before we do, Silver Tunnel Gaming, Cartoon Network was so good up till the Teen Titans Go thing happened.
I don't know, I think it was slipping a little bit before that, but yeah, Teen Titans Go did not help.
Yeah. Lastly, the standalone format could give DC the ability to make a live action Batman Beyond film. It is difficult to imagine that one would ever happen in a shared universe format. Uh, so this could be a way for Terry McGinnis to get on the big screen. At Silver Tunnel Gaming, you can't do some of the stuff in Batman Beyond without going into the triple million digits.
Yeah, yeah. So they broke their own rules at the last possible second because they're fucking idiots.
Actually, I have seen. Well, I wouldn't say they're like. You can tell that some of the effects are bad, but I've seen like some short films of like Batman Beyond. Like I think there was like a series at one point, like a fan series on YouTube. Actually, pretty good,
Hmm.
all things considered.
Okay. So anyway, my pitch for a DC Black Label movie would be John Constantine Hellblazer in the style of Trainspotting, directed by Guy Ritchie. And because he has more than earned his place in the movies proper, starring Matt, he was born to play Constantine in a lab somewhere, Ryan.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so Sword Time Gaming, yeah, but that was made by the fans for the fans. They're talking about my like me and Train Spotting. Soko also says,
Yeah.
isn't that like a really dark comedy?
Yes.
So yeah, I can see why you pitched Constantine like that.
Yeah, and it's a story about tripping the fuck out and perception because drug use. And it also primarily features working class British bastards. So Constantine.
I could see that. Though I think the budget would have to be a little higher in terms of like magic and stuff, like for the effects.
Not necessarily.
Oh, I
Is-
said a little higher, not like super high, but like just enough.
Okay, fair. But the way I'm picturing it is, have you ever seen a movie called John Dies at the End?
Heard of it, never seen it.
Okay, there are some excellent um there are some excellent scenes in that movie where the magic involved is very much like tricks of perception and that sort of thing. And with proper use of lighting and camera tricks, you could definitely do John Constantine in that same way. I have to send you some clips of John Dies at the End after this to
Okay.
sort of
So we are not finished with Batman Beyond. The Batman name would carry a lot of weight with audiences, while DC could also cheat a bit when it comes to the film's standalone nature.
So you are fully breaking your own rules. Well, piss off then.
So we're talking about gaming. I would say at least another 10 million for the effects. For-
Probably, but actually,
Constantine.
how much was John Dies at the End made for? And a lot of that the budget from that could probably be stripped down.
Uh, it does not say.
Damn.
Oh wait, less than 1 million.
Seriously.
Yep. Well, I'm looking on Wikipedia.
Well, but usually stuff like that is fairly accurate, so yeah, hot damn. A John Constantine movie in the style of Trainspotting, directed by Guy Ritchie and starring Matt Ryan, with bits and pieces of John Dies at the End thrown in. DC, I offer this to you for free. Just make the movie. Just make the movie. Make the movie.
There's you know what? I would like to see a Batman movie made in the style of Joker, kind of. Though, granted, there is a trailer called Gotham Nightmare that was made a few years back that I think would really be cool because it's told more from the people's perspective of Batman, where Batman I think is like an urban legend and kind of like a scary story you tell kids to behave.
Mm-hmm.
It looked really good, like the trailer and like how it was edited and stuff. I will have to send it to you after.
Yeah.
But ideally, that's how I would like a movie to go. Like you kind of treat Batman as this kind of monster.
Kind of like the Man Bath.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right, so Batman Beyond film could be set in the aftermath of the Tim Burton films and see Michael Keaton reprise his role as an older Bruce Wayne. But another fascinating possibility would be setting it in the same universe as Joker, where the legacies of Arthur Fleck and Bruce Wayne could loom large.
Or you finally give Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy their dues and have them reprise their roles in live action.
Well, Kevin Conroy is going to be part of Infinite Crisis for CW. He's going to be playing Bruce Wayne.
Well, but that just goes to show how much of a good idea this is. Especially now that Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill are getting up there in years. Have them play their characters in live action in a Batman Beyond context.
Technically, we kind of got that from the Trickster in the Flash.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's it for that. Yeah, that was it. So as you wait for the next article to load, I'm trying to think of a character I really would like to see and kind of done in the style of Joker, besides Scarecrow and Mr. Freeze. I want to say Jason Todd's Red Hood, but I feel like that's kind of a give.
I want to see a Justice Society movie done in the style of Joker. That's what I want to see, basically. Like, sort of a M. Night Shyamalan superhero trilogy meets Watchmen tone is what I would imagine I'd go for there.
So you want it to be deconstructive?
No, I said tone, not themes.
Okay. Wait, are we talking like the comic or the movie Watchmen?
The movie, although
Oh,
the movie and the comic share very similar tones, so either way works.
okay. God, it's so hard because
Similar to when they brought the Justice Society in, on Smallville, but with a larger budget and bigger scale, and actually set in like the 1930s or 40s.
I would like them to bring some of the cast from Smallville back, like Hawkman.
I thought the guy that played Dr. Fate did a good job. I also thought that Stargirl's reaction to him was perfect. Like, she knows what's up. She's one of the few people who know what's up when it comes to Dr. Fate.
The question.
Now that would be a good question.
Like, it would just... Okay, do you guys... do you remember the movie The Spirit? Like,
Yeah, the god-awful Frank Miller one? Yeah.
visual style, I think, was really good, though.
True.
Though I think that would require a larger budget, so...
Though with the question, you could do a straight up noir, almost in the vein of like Maltese Falcon. And I definitely think you could get a lot of play with the Randy and Objectivist themes, especially if you gave it to someone like, and I can't believe these words are gonna come out of my mouth, but Zack Snyder. Because he
I
can
feel like that hurts you to say that.
It was soul crushingly painful, but it needs to be said. Because he can do darker, edgier superheroes, and he can do Randy and Objectivism. So give him the literal noir Ayn Randian superhero. And tell him to go nuts.
I wouldn't say go nuts, but... Yeah, honestly, I was just thinking of having Question in kind of a... I don't know, maybe Dirty Harry kind of style?
I think that's too modern. I think if you want to do the Question right, it has to be period set, and he has to be a noir detective.
Wait, Dirty Harry is too modern? Those movies were made in like the 70s, weren't they?
Yeah. 70s is too modern.
Okay.
I'm
Well, I mean,
thinking,
like in terms of style and kind of...
I'm thinking like 50s at the very latest would be how it would go with question.
Unfortunately, I don't know a lot of noirs from that era.
Oh, that's right. You have a lot of watching to do.
Yes, I do.
Ma.
Okay. But yeah, obviously, it's obvious that the question would be a noir film, if we're being completely honest.
Yeah. And anyone who claims otherwise is being a dipshit.
I would just like to, because again, there are plenty of question fan films out there, but I would like to see how they would do The Mask with an actual true budget. Because
Similar
if fans
ideas,
can do it and actually make it look good, I'm sure as hell they can actually get it right on actual movies.
I imagine it would probably end up looking similar to the silence from Doctor Who in terms of the facelessness.
Yeah. All right. So Mary Sue article, yay!
Hey.
And I will. There's a lot. Okay. So, oh no, please spare me, a sequel to Joker by Rachel Leishman. This was posted November 4th, 2019. So it is a little old.
Only by about 6 days.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rachel, based on that title alone, go fuck yourself, darling. Go fuck yourself.
Okay. Remember when everyone made a big deal about how Joker wasn't like other movies about superheroes? Joker is not a movie about superhero, it is a villain's journey.
But to be fair, it is in the superhero genre, so fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. I just wanted to be clear though. It's not because I think she frames it as a superhero movie in like general sense.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll deal with that stupid when we get there, I guess.
Right. Okay. Well, out the window because they're basically talking about making a sequel, and it might do other Batman villains. And I truly cannot handle any more of this movie.
Well, my darling, that is entirely your problem because, much as I told Bob, many people around you get the joke. And it's very possible indeed that if you don't get the joke, you are the joke. And I can say that with the utmost confidence given how often we have responded to you and your ilk. So, yeah, you might just be a humorless bastard there, darling.
Joaquin Phoenix talked to Los Angeles Times about his work on Joker, talked about the possibility of a sequel. Originally, the idea was that they wouldn't just do a sequel to do one, but apparently Phoenix was so intended in exploring more of Arthur Fleck that he instantly told director Todd Phillips to work on a sequel.
Yes, he's a person who likes the role he's playing and wants to keep playing it. It's just this little thing we call passion and investment, darling.
If only he signed on for Doctor Strange. I knew you were gonna say it, Dawn.
Yes, it is a travesty, but so is a world without the Joker movie. So it pains me, but I will accept that he was called to do something greater, to do Joker, but I still think he would have been a better Doctor Strange than Benedict Cumberbatch. The movie would have been better as a result.
Dawn?
I'm not letting it go until they fix it.
I don't know, build a device that lets you travel to a universe where it did happen. Then you have the satisfaction of seeing that movie.
I'd rather just conjure the movie out of that universe and into this one, to be honest. But still, that's too difficult and elaborate spell work, and it would probably kill me. So, would it be worth it? As long as everyone knew that I gave my life in order to prove the point that Benedict Cumberbatch fucking sucks as Doctor Strange. I might allow for that.
Long before the release or before we had any idea if it would be successful, we talked about sequels. In the second or third week of shooting, I was like, Todd, can you start working on a sequel? There's way too much to explore. It was kind of in jest, but not really. That was Joaquin's quote, or Mr. Phoenix's quote.
You, sir, have gotten all of the respect from me. Not enough to forgive you for walking out on Doctor Strange and leaving me at the capricious whims of Benedict Cumberbatch, but enough that I can now focus on other things.
I have no connection to Doctor Strange, so you have all my respect, sir.
Mm-hmm. I will forgive you a lot just for the reaction you had when they asked you about the sociological woo.
Right.
Just
Okay,
why
sir.
would you, and walking the fuck out is the appropriate reaction.
Spare me whether or not it was a serious request. I sincerely hope that this movie does not go back on everything it has been preaching nonstop. That it's not like other movies, or that it was changing the superhero genre forever. Two
Oh, for
things
fuck's
it
sake.
did not, in fact, do, but instead just made a bunch of fans of this movie absolutely insufferable to those of us who have problems with it.
Okay, well, your problems usually revolve around ideological woo, my darling. And no one in the movie said it was going to be a standalone or that it was going to be a one-off or any of that shit. That shit was projected onto the movie by people who viewed it. And the projections of people who viewed it can be wrong, darling. And in order for something to change an entire genre of art, it has to have a lasting impact. And while Joker certainly did, hopefully, kick a boot up the ass of Marvel to make them get back to work, if those changes don't amount to anything other than a single movie, it's not really a change now, is it? So, yes, a successful Joker movie probably is going to have sequels, because believe it or not, darling, whether they chose to make a sequel or not, Joker is still a very first chapter rather than a complete story. We're seeing the birth of the Joker, but the Joker is not entirely solidified yet. And as to how insufferable the fanboys have been, maybe it's because you are being a humorless jackass and we're trying to let you in on the joke. But again, it's very hard to get the joke when you are the joke, Rachel. All right, next. Oh, he must have dipped out again. All right.
I'm back.
Huzzah.
I got a Cinnabon.
You lucky bastard. Now I'm hungry.
So what did I miss in your ramblings or rant?
Basically, she's a humorless ideological fucktard who doesn't get the joke, and in order for things to actually change a genre, they have to have a lasting impact. And there's nothing inherent to Joker that implies it must be a one-off.
Hmm. I'm exceptionally tired of the discourse surrounding Joker, mainly because A, The Dark Knight did this story better. It didn't really do this same story, to be honest.
And as awesome as Heath Ledger was, he was only in what, like 40 minutes of that 3 hour
45.
movie? Yeah. Something along those lines. Much in the same way as, even though Hannibal Lecter is the definitive most memorable part of Silence of the Lambs, he is only in 15 minutes, I think. It just so happens that those are the most memorable 15 minutes. So, yeah, you are kind of reaching there. Dark Knight is the first movie to take a step in this direction, but the thing is, Joker is a furtherance of that same direction. It's taking everything the Dark Knight did and amplifying it and raising it up further. And that is always a good thing. And if you're tired of the discourse surrounding this movie, dear, maybe you shouldn't be contributing the most nasty aspects of it. Because most people who are enjoying this movie are just really geeking out about how much they love this movie. It's people like you who are dragging all sorts of socio-political and moral woo into it. So
And
maybe
B,
you shouldn't do that if you don't want to engage in a negative discourse, because you're the one bringing the negativity into the discourse. If there is any to begin with, which there is not much of to begin with. Moving on. Did he disappear again?
no, I'm here. I was eating my Cinnabon.
Mm-hmm.
And B, it isn't anything new. Okay, that's where. Okay, so let me take this one down, then maybe you can add something.
All right, go now.
Yeah, it's not anything new because it wears its inspirations on its sleeves. You know, King of Comedy, Taxi Driver, and the story itself isn't original, but it doesn't have to be. It's still enjoyable just on the fact of the acting and just how much effort and passion is put into basically every single second of every scene. And kind of to the thing I always say, you know, we live in a time where nothing's really original. Only thing we can really do is take something from before and just kind of add our own style to it.
Mm-hmm. But I actually disagree a little bit, because it is original for the comic book movie genre. This is the first comic book movie to ever do something like this. And it did up the ante of what the comic book movie was so capable of, to such a degree that a lot of people are arguing if it's even a comic book movie anymore. I think those people are fucktards, because of course it's still a comic book movie. The only thing it owes its inspirations to more than King of Comedy is the Killing Joke. So there. But yeah, that's just fundamentally duplicitous, because whether you think Joker is good or not, you have to admit that it is at least original, as far as anything can be in the superhero genre.
So I left for a moment, and you know, I literally am right next to my kitchen, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had mousetraps set up, and they went off.
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw one of the other mice, because the mousetraps were already set off to two that are dead.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of them was eating one of the dead ones.
No offense, but this is probably why you shouldn't live in a building that by all rights should be condemned.
I think the mouse problem was just because we didn't really set up a lot of mouse traps until recently.
Ah. Well, we had a squirrel in here the other day that got in here somehow through the basement. The cat killed it.
At least you have a cat. I have a dog, but she can't catch mice worth shit.
Yep, we have two cats, and both of them are very good at the mousing thing.
Scared the shit out of me as soon as I looked to the counter.
I can imagine, once again, perhaps consider not living in a condemned building.
We're poor. We don't have anywhere else to go. So,
Fair play.
all right. Where was I? Okay. And the fact that Phoenix wants to explore more shows that this was always going to be a typical superhero world building movie. No, it's not. It doesn't really build up. It's not Dawn of Justice, okay? It tells its story. It doesn't build up anything. It doesn't have. I mean, it has references and things, but what movie doesn't?
Yeah, and what you essentially have here is a universe organically expanding out from a very contained core, similar to the Singularity, where you have, in cases like Dawn of Justice and so forth, is you set up a rigging and then you build stuff around the rigging. If anything, this is how world building should be done. You tell
Yeah.
a very, very, very good story, and then you slowly but surely increase its size, inch by inch by inch by inch by inch, until you find yourself standing in the middle of a universe.
Yeah, think about the first Iron Man and Phase 1 movies. Essentially, they were all self-contained stories with inklings of a bigger world.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Only Marvel and arguably DC have even managed to do this in the superhero genre. The Fox X-Men certainly didn't do it. The 10 different times they failed to do a Fantastic Four movie didn't do it. Spider-Man movies didn't do it until they joined the MCU. So you are referring to exactly two franchises as though they are an entire genre. And did it ever occur to you the main reason why those two things are so inextricably linked is because they were successful to at least some kind of degree?
At some point, I got to do a video where I rewrite the X-Men cinematic universe or whatever it'll be called.
The X-verse?
You know me too well. Though that, I don't know why, but that sounds like some corrupt would make a innuendo out of.
Kind of like the Triple X-verse?
There we go. I'll work on it, but I feel like that's a video I will do later in the future.
You already have so many videos in the offing there.
Yeah, so that's probably one I'll do next year, probably. Okay, so where are we? All right, the thing about Joker that aggravates me is that everything around it was geared towards tearing down the superhero genre. No, it wasn't.
Was adding to that. Okay, in the same way that Ant-Man was the superhero equivalent of a heist movie, and Guardians of the Galaxy was the superhero equivalent of a space opera, and Thor was trying to be Shakespearean, and Captain America and Wonder Woman are both war movies, and so on and so on and so on. Joker was the comic book movie's answer to a Scorsese Tarantino prestige movie, a prestige drama. Okay? Just like all of those other superhero movies are subgenred in various different ways. In the same way that Logan was a modern day Western. In the same way that Brightburn was a horror movie. And so on and so on and so on.
I mean, you could argue that BVS, Dawn of Justice, was kind of a political spy movie.
Yeah, and then Captain America: Civil War showed up and showed BVS how to do it properly. A political thriller, and the political espionage thriller that was Captain America: Civil War, and also a comic book movie. Just because something is a different kind of movie as well as a comic book movie doesn't mean it's not a comic book movie. And given that comic book movies come from literal pulp magazines, having a movie that is set in a very noir-esque cityscape for the sake of like pulp mobsterism makes perfect sense and actually gets further back to the roots of the superhero movie genre. I don't know how you can claim to be a nerd and not know this, Rachel. Moving on.
I don't think she's ever claimed to be a nerd.
Yes, you did.
Oh. I must not have been paying attention.
Don't you remember the Mary Jane article?
I'll be honest, most of the time when we read these type of articles, I kind of gloss them over after the fact.
Your brain blocks them out so it's not exposed to the stupid for too long.
Do you blame me?
No, I don't.
I kind of remember the Mary Jane article just on the fact that it was so stupid. I think I got kind of angry at it.
And then the one immediately following that was, yes, girls still have to defend their nerddom.
Oh yeah. Well, that goes for anyone. You have to defend your knowledge, otherwise you just seem like a fucking poser.
Yeah, that was the point we made.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Nostalgia.
Yep. Why sometimes I'll go back through and watch some of the older ones. My favorite is the Guardian writer talking about Game of Thrones response that we did.
Yeah, that was a while back.
Doesn't seem that long ago, but it was.
Oh, okay. All right. And now that is a successful R-rated movie, they want to continue telling a story that never needed to be told in the first place. That can kind of be argued with pretty much any movie sequel.
Okay, but also fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that goes without saying, but
the idea that you get to decide what stories are worth telling and what don't, purely based on nothing but authoritative ground rather than any kind of argument, is absolute just dyspraxic diuretic shit, Rachel. You don't get to decide what stories deserve to be told and which don't. And even if you did, you are wrong here. Joker is very much something that everyone but you appears to have needed right now. That's why it's so successful. That's why it has such a small drop from week to week. That's why sitting at its fucking 6th week at the box office is the first time it's dropped from double digits. On a budget of between 55 and 70 million and a opening that was 96. Right? Clearly, Joker is resonating with everyone, or at least a large swathe of people other than you. But because you don't understand what they see in it, they must all be idiots who are shallowly projecting things onto it, rather than you projecting the absence of meaning onto it and not actually looking at what's in front of your face. Moving on.
Right, so I'm going to have to read that, and then I have to disappear for a moment to throw out some dead mice.
Okay.
Yeah, if I don't deal with that, the mice are going to eat their friends' corpses.
Three blind mice. Three blind mice.
Okay. So, it feels unnecessary and problematic when you look at the context of Joker and every problem that many found with it. So now that Joaquin Phoenix seems to want a sequel, does that mean we're going to see one? I hope not. This story, while not something I enjoyed, did have a good ending that fit the story and the character of the Joker as we know him.
Okay, fuck your problematizing and your problems that people had with it, because most of the problems that people had with it were moralistic and socio-cultural and had nothing to do with the actual merits of the movie. And as you recall, Rachel, the ending was the Joker about to do Jokery things. So now we need to see this Joker, which is dissimilar from all the other Jokers, actually doing Jokery things. We've seen him embrace his identity. Now, the most logical step next to it would be seeing him develop the connections and the skills associated with Joker. Then the third movie would either be him sort of at the last phase of Proto Joker right as Batman showed up, or seeing him crash and burn and fail, because it's been sort of telegraphed that his neuroses would eventually come up with him, or both. That is a perfectly sensible arc, and it is not complete yet, Rachel. And now we wait for Rainstormer to come.
I'm still here. I haven't left yet. I was putting on a jacket and stuff.
Okay.
Now I will disappear. But before, I guess I'll just read the next part so you can have some talking points.
Mhm.
Which is actually the end of this article. Huh. Okay. Still, it broke records, and thus it is surprising that we're hearing talks of sequels. I beg for my own sanity that we don't and let the tale of the Joker die, but will we ever really be free? Not as long as we continue to tell Batman stories, because even Joker may include the Martha Pearl necklace break because it's super original, right? Oh, okay, Rachel, fuck you. Again, I personally subscribe to the theory that the movie itself is Joker's delusion of him creating Batman instead of Batman creating him.
I take it more literally than Brainstormer does. I'm perfectly fine with Batman arising as a reaction to characters like the Joker existing in Gotham. It's perfectly in line with his origin and makes perfect sense to me. In a world where people are going crazy, you need an agent of order to put things right. Hence, characters like the Joker beget characters like Batman. Just as easily and even more so than it can work the other way around. But yes, the Pearl thing happens because the Pearl thing happening is a motif. And in an artsy-fartsy prestige drama movie, imagery like that really works. That's why it keeps getting reused in comics, because it gives a thin veneer of artistic legitimacy to panels that otherwise wouldn't have it. And in a movie that does that exact same thing, of course they're going to use it. And no, Rachel, we'll never be rid of the Joker. And I've never been able to say this quite as sincerely as I'm saying it now, but fuck your sanity. The point of the Joker, love, is that we're all mad here. And that our attempts to make everything so fucking serious all the time is part of the fucking problem. And our refusal to acknowledge the blatantly obvious issues that are right in front of our faces is exactly what perpetuates them. So if you want to see the Joker end, you need to embrace it a little bit. But of course, Rachel, as I've said many times to Bob and now many times to you, you wouldn't get the joke, Rachel, because you, my love, are the joke. And now Brainstormer is dealing with Might.
I'm back.
All right.
Jesus. Fuck, that was. Oh. One of the mice had its face eaten by the others.
Yeah, I've heard stories of mother mice actually eating their own children and leaving the faces out as like a symbol or something.
Like it was just the top half of its skull, no eyes or any. Oh.
3 blind mice. 3 blind mice.
Yeah. So what did I miss?
Rachel being a dipshit and me trying to explain to her why her sanity means exactly jack shit, and that's part of the point of the movie.
My hand is twitching.
I would hug you, but of course I am in Pennsylvania and you are in
Indiana.
Illinois or Indiana. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's Indiana.
Yeah. So I would hug you, but alas, I cannot.
Honestly, like I've dealt with dead mice before. You know, I've gotten used to that, but I've never seen its face eaten off.
Seems like that would be a fairly common occurrence. But anyway, take a few deep breaths if you need to, and we can move to the next thing.
Yeah, I'm good. Jesus. All right. Move from stream. Hold on. Next one is from IndieWire. And we've only covered like one article from them, right?
I think we've done a couple.
You sure? Because I thought we only did that one about Doomcock.
I remember I actually just watched the episode where we did the Doomcock one, but I thought there were a couple others. But anyway, we're back. We're back to IndieWire. Is the long and the short of it.
Yeah. No, wait. That's not. That wasn't IndieWire. That was We've covered IndieWire, but it wasn't. The Doomcock thing wasn't IndieWire. Okay. Let me stream. There we go. Okay. Toxic masculinity at the movies. This year's award season is all about bad men. From Irishman to Joker, the term keeps coming up, and the season is just getting started by Eric Cohen. And I'm sorry if I misspelled your name. This was uploaded November 5th, 2019. Okay, so picture here, the Joker, the Irishman, and Marriage Story, which apparently has Adam Driver in it. And if you don't know who Adam Driver is, folks, he plays Kylo Ren in the Star Wars movies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's a bad I'm talking about Adam Driver. I don't think he's a bad actor. I think he's just been given poor material.
Yep.
You can only do so much with what you're given.
Yep. And if what you're given is shit, then you can only polish a turd so much.
Yeah. Okay. In case there was any doubt that Martin Scorsese's The Irishman centered on bad men with serious issues, producer Jane Rosenthal didn't mince words in an interview a few days before the premiere. What you do look at with something like The Irishman is the toxic masculinity, she said. And what happens when someone chooses one family over their own nuclear family?
I thought nuclear families were an arbitrary traditionalistic social construct we were supposed to get rid of. Isn't choosing something over a nuclear family a good thing?
Yeah, I got nothing to really say about that first paragraph there. She may as well have been addressing all the movies vying for Prime Awards season attention this fall. More than any Oscar race in recent memory, the top candidates to date settle on fragile men representing their insecurities with tough guys shielding, denying themselves the support systems at their disposal. Really, anyone puts up a tough persona to avoid feeling anything, even women.
Almost as though people having issues and not being safe with expressing them is kind of a pressing issue that Hollywood is becoming wise to slowly but surely, or something.
Yeah. I mean, repressing
Like,
repressing emotions and stuff, that's a normal thing people do.
yeah, but it's also not healthy. And maybe if society were a little bit more, I don't know, nicer, softer, more conducive to expressing emotions, people wouldn't be so fucking stoic all the time. Maybe instead of blaming men for forcing themselves to be stoic, you could create a situation in which they were less inclined to be stoic by, say, acknowledging their personhood independent of their utility to other people and not framing women as the exclusive monopolizers of all victimhood. But of course, what I just said was heresy according to the feminist orthodoxy of 2019. So I will take my lashings in my trailer. Thank you very much.
Okay. Right. Okay. From the self-destructive path of alleged hitman Frank Sheeran, Robert De Niro, that pits him against his best pal Jimmy Hoffa, Al Pacino in The Irishman, to the vengeful path of outsider Arthur Fleck, Joaquin Phoenix in Joker, through the arrogance of famed Marriage Story theater director Charlie Barber, Adam Driver, in recognizing his failures as a husband. This season is overloaded with a lot of troubled dudes facing their comeuppance. Joker doesn't really face any comeuppance, or
If anything, Joker is the comeuppance. But that's an interesting Freudian slip you just made. Because rather than them showing you what you're doing wrong, you've just set up a situation in which the purpose of these movies is to show them that they are wrong. And you just completely missed the entire point of most of these movies in that case. Because I can only speak for Joker and The Irishman because I haven't seen the Adam Driver thing. But in both cases, there is a significant streak of I am the monster that society has made me. And so I am going to reap my vengeance on it. It kind of reminds me of a line from V for Vendetta. What was done to me was monstrous, and they created a monster. That is the fundamental point of a lot of these movies, I think. If you do terrible, terrible things to people, the people you will get out of this are very likely to be very terrible because essentially you get the outputs that you put in. If you provide a particular kind of input, then you're going to get that same kind of output reflected back upon you. And the only way to address this system would be to address how the processing works. But you can't just say, you shouldn't process this that way because reasons. You actually have to treat it as though it's valid and legitimate on its own terms first. Fucking hell.
Yeah, like it's. I mean, I've written a few stories where good people become monsters simply on how the world kind of spins for those characters. Um, like this one character who gets like betrayed and basically left for dead, like near death, and the character comes back as like pretty much the living embodiment of evil, just because
Hmm.
they were betrayed, and they're on a quest of vengeance and are willing to do anything, even hurt innocent people, which they weren't willing to do before.
Hmm.
It sounds crass, but welcome to 2019. Toxic masculinity is having a moment. However, even as the term has gained traction in recent years, in large part thanks to the blatant misogyny and rage spirals of the 45th U.S. president,
Oh, fuck you.
I'm just whatever. It's
Toxic masculinity is only having a moment insofar as you are mislabeling a lot of things as toxic masculinity, and you think that people noticing that it's a mislabeling is just a sign that it's accurately labeling things. But if you call something a nonsensical topic, and then people point out to you that that topic is nonsensical, you can't just interpret that as a Kafka trap whereby it just proves how much we need this nonsensical topic I brought up. You keep forcing men to be toxic and then blaming them for their own toxicity. And then if they don't act toxic, you say they're not manning properly or they're not being real men. And you wonder how we wind up in these situations.
lying, hypocritical jackasses.
You make a mistake and then you blame everyone but yourself for that mistake, including the people who are most directly affected by the consequences of your mistake. Or
I could go into a lot of stories where I know a few people like that, but I'm not going to because we'd be here all night. So yeah, moving on. Its provenness goes back almost 3 decades. Psychology professor Shepard Bliss coined toxic masculinity as part of the mythopoetic men's movement in the late 1980s.
oh fuck, we're
You know,
doing this.
that's actually, I really thought it was a legit modern term. I didn't know it was,
No, most of these things go back to like the late 70s. Like patriarchy theory, the invisible knapsack, the dichotomy of privilege and oppression, and so on and so forth. It's all like the late 70s, early 80s stuff.
So stupid has been around for a while. Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
And it has been slowly growing and metastasizing into worse strains of stupid since then.
Yeah. Okay. And worked through a shamanistic process for coaxing men into confronting aspects of their identity that society told them to bottle up. Bliss even hosted retreats for participants with a $200 entry fee.
In other words, I know you have all these practical concerns, men, but if you just teach yourself to feel good in spite of them, that will fix all your problems somehow.
Look,
That's essentially what the mythopoetic men's movement is. I know you have all these practical concerns, but if you just teach yourself to feel good on an emotional level and be of service to society and women, that will make your masculinity feel good about itself, and then it won't be as negative. it's not entirely without merit in the sense that teaching men to be psychologically stable and feel good about themselves is a good thing,
Yeah.
but the context is foobar. Completely fucking foobar. Because, call me crazy, but I don't think men's entire purpose in life should be to serve women or even necessarily others. Like, what about the notion of you're worthwhile for your own sake and you have your own life and destiny and likes to pursue? What about that option?
You know, I
Yeah.
can go into a little speech about how I perceive destiny, but again, we'll be here for a while.
Well, I mean, if you want to, you can.
Well, it's interesting because how I define destiny is more of when we look back on our lives, when we're kind of in the kind of close to the midnight hour in terms of our lives. When we look back on our choices and the kind of paths we've taken, sacrifices, and just our choices in general, we kind of feel contempt and are fine with our mistakes and our victories, and kind of see how it's all led us to be the person we have become from when we started. I think that's what destiny is, or like fate. It's just us looking back and realizing how we've come so far from who we were when we were young.
Interesting. Even more interesting, of course, because you are 19 and you've already come to this realization.
Well, I believe in free will. I don't really think we have a set destination for us or how we go there.
I am slightly more deterministic than you. I find free will to be a useful concept, but I don't think it actually meaningfully exists.
Let's agree to disagree.
Yes, and move on, because I'm too tired to engage in the fucking free will argument, and I don't know how long it would take us anyway.
Yeah. We're almost done with well, not with this article, but we're almost done with like article reading in general. So okay, so
How much longer is this one? I thought this one was longer than usual.
Looking. Yeah, no, this is pretty long actually. Yeah, okay. So, all right. We drum, we chant, we recite poetry. He told the New Republic in 1990.
So basically, you're trying to do a magic ritual, but without any of the practical magical aspects of it. You have now insulted my honor as both a men's rights advocate and also as a magician. You cannot imagine how much I would be ranting at you right now if it weren't for the fact that I am so dead fucking tired. But needless to say, fuck you with every star in the heavens, you twits.
You know, you're a little late to say that to him.
I don't care. May he have been fucked by every star in the heavens by the time he sees this. I don't know.
All right. But the story also reported a lot of flatulence and men crawling on all fours, presumably to expunge their animal instincts. So this guy is kind of a charlatan, if anything.
Okay, I'm not gonna say that. I think this guy genuinely believes he's helping. I just think his framework is completely fucked in the head.
Okay, well, let me be more clear on charlatan. It's more of, I don't really think he has any real idea of what he's doing. I think he has the, yeah, like you said, Dalton, I think mostly it's the framework that's the problem, and just I don't know. It's
It's the same issue of Scientology. The inputs of Scientology are worthwhile because they come from like older understandings of the psyche and also from psychology. But the framework those inputs are taken into is completely fucked in the head, and so the outputs are completely fucked in the head.
mhm. For Bliss, toxic masculinity found men obscuring their emotions with icy demeanors that led to harsh and at times violent outbursts.
So my response to that would be what led them to walling off their emotions in the first place. Your response to that would be masculinity in itself did that to them, so they need to be less masculine. Okay.
Excuse me, teacher.
Yeah.
May I provide an example of my own person?
I'm sorry, that was funny. Go ahead, man.
Thank you. Well, I think I've made it clear that I myself have kind of portrayed a stoic demeanor in both my younger years and kind of now.
Mm-hmm.
More on the part that I'm very shy and socially awkward, that I have a hard time talking to people, so I just kind of give myself a stone face.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was younger in school, and I say younger like I'm a fucking old man, whatever.
You're old on the inside, so I say own it.
All right, but believe it or not, I was bullied.
This doesn't surprise me, although I feel bad for you now.
Nah, they were just a bunch of jackasses that, honestly, I think maybe looking back, might have been bullied themselves in some way, or were just idiots, just didn't know when to shut up. But I was given advice by my family. I think specifically my grandmother, that you don't let them push your buttons. Don't let them know that they're getting to you. Just don't give them the satisfaction.
Essentially, to quote the Joker, put on a happy face.
Or in my case, a blank face.
No.
Maybe that's why people thought I'd be some type of crazy guy.
Well, again, I've noticed that at least rhetorically speaking, your anger devolves into wanting to break things, and it does make me slightly scared of you.
Well, not people. I mean, just like collateral damage, things you could probably pay for, like replace them.
Well, yeah, but that's just with minor annoyances. What's going to happen when something really important snaps in there, and then it becomes more like I'm imagining you and I have a very similar approach to abject rage, and that is sort of the Dracula response from Castlevania. This was the only reason on Earth for me to tolerate human life.
Oh no! Whenever I have those kind of things, I've never done this, but I've thought about doing it. Is that I go into a very dark room and I scream basically into the darkness at the top of my lungs.
I find that to be a very interesting coping mechanism, but I feel the need to quote the old adage: "Be careful when you look into the abyss, that the abyss does not look back into you."
Well, it's kind of borrowed from Daredevil season 3 with Bullseye letting out a primal scream.
Mm-hmm. again, mind the abyss.
But look, it's just people can hide their emotions for various reasons. One is because they've been hurt before by letting their emotions out, like being betrayed or hurt by someone they cared about. Usually a lover of some kind or family, and they just put up that wall because they're scared of getting hurt again.
Because the heart is the most delicate aspect of human nature. It simply is.
I make
To quote the old adage from The Wizard of Oz, hearts will only be practical when they can be made unbreakable.
seems like one of your cats agrees.
Yeah, that's Isis. She's usually the talkative one.
Mhm.
Charlie's meows are tiny.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I speak from personal experience. I try to put up a wall when it comes to love, but ultimately I open my heart and I get broken again and again and again.
And right about now is when I would be offering you a pat on the back and a hug because it seems like you need it.
I'm just gonna go grab a drink. Well, don't underage drink, kids. Just I'm getting like a root beer, like a soda.
You realize, of course, that if you persist in this grab a drink every time something upsets you notion, you will eventually become an alcoholic.
Well, no, I'm just out of my. I just finished a drink, so I wanted to get another one.
All right. Well, yeah, I will entertain the people whilst you are doing that.
Well, actually, I feel like I should finish the paragraph, so you have something to talk about.
Okay.
For bliss, toxicity found men obscuring their emotions by smears that lead to harsh, at times violent outbursts. I use a medical term, he said, because I believe that, like every sickness, toxic masculinity has an antidote. And I'll be back.
It also has a cause. And barring some kind of socio-political virus or bacteria somewhere, you might want to consider this little thing that we call environmental factors. And what, pray tell, in the environment of the average man would make them turn off all of their external emotions and become immovable rock golems of pure and unadulterated fuckwittedness? Could it be that they are trying to protect themselves from something like, say, emotional harm, or worse yet, the judgment of the people that they consider to be valuable? That, of course, being women. And that has been the case since time immemorial because evolution dictates that the women select their mates for, breedable qualities because, uh, perpetuity of the species and all that jazz. And men do the competing for said selection because there are only a finite number of females who can give a finite number of wombs to a finite number of offspring in any given cycle. But there are a fuck ton of men who produce a fuck ton of sperm in an almost unending cycle of regeneration. So naturally, women are considered to be more valuable and men are considered to be more useful because that is the roles they must occupy for evolutionary purposes. And did it ever occur to you that focusing so much on your agency and or rather your personhood is an impediment to viewing yourself as a useful tool and nothing but a useful and disposable tool? And now we wait. Do, 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 do. Fuck.
What's up, you fucking cunts?
Same old. This guy's being a fucking cunt.
Yeah, sorry, I had to deal with another mouse trap. It went off as soon as I was getting my drink.
Reminds me of the song Death Trap from Mayhem of the Music Meister.
Yeah, it was one of the weaker songs in my opinion.
Yeah, not my favorite. Definitely not my favorite.
Birds of Prey, though. That was a good one.
Which I think is the last time we're ever going to be able to say those words, at least until after everyone forgets the movie exists.
Yeah, don't worry. As soon as we see that movie, I'm making a rewrite video.
Pace yourself. You've already got to rewrite Batwoman and Captain Marvel.
And Endgame.
Yeah.
Well, I am nearly done with that. I just need to write out the actual story.
Yeah, it's not as bad as the other two, I wouldn't imagine.
Right. Okay. Almost 30 years later, in the wake of #MeToo, that's still going on, isn't it?
It is.
Talk about things that need to die already.
I agree.
And
Me too.
And the cavalcade of revolutions around awful male behavior, Bliss's notion of finding a cure for toxic masculinity sounds awfully naive, even as his process has been subsumed sublimated into narrative form. In The Irishman, Sheeran spends much of the movie operating under the assumption that he knows exactly how a man should behave in a patriarchal, domineering fashion that ultimately alienates his offspring. So he's a bad dad. Okay, it's kind of technically a movie cliche, but all right.
And in other words, he's hurt by the role that society actually expects him to play. But somehow this turned into his family being a victim of him rather than him being a victim of the society that made him the monster that he is. Again, to quote V, what was done to me was monstrous, and they made a monster.
Yep. Much has been made about paucity of dialogue spoken by Anna Paquin as Sheeran's oldest daughter, Peggy. I think Anna Paquin was Snooki Stackhouse in True Blood and Rogue in the X-Men movies.
Oh yeah, I think.
Yeah, Rogue in the Fox movies was not that great.
Not great.
Though it could be because I've seen Anna Paquin in True Blood and she's not bad. She actually does a really good Southern accent, which works for Rogue, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I just think because of Bryan Singer and like the weird leather outfit and stuff, basically taking everything about X-Men that out of X-Men in the movies
Hmm.
was the big problem.
Yeah. The not having faith in the material and trying to make it into a generic sci-fi franchise.
Also, Hugh Jackman it has kind of more of a domineering presence acting-wise than Anna, unfortunately.
Yes.
Because originally she started out as the kind of focal point character in the first X-Men movie,
Hmm.
if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and then they transitioned to Wolverine, and the rest was history.
Yeah, I mean, good for Hugh Jackman, but I do feel like Anna Paquin kind of got sidelined too much.
Yeah, kind of screwed by that.
Yeah. Right. As a child, she's traumatized when he beats up a deli worker who bullies her. As an adult, she resents how he keeps his sins private, an act that ensures they remain at constant odds.
So wait a minute, hold on. He defends her honor by beating the shit out of someone because of how they treat her, and suddenly it's his problem. Did it ever occur to you that maybe if women weren't so pathologically in need of protecting all the goddamn time, you'd have less men going too far in order to do that protecting? But that would imply that anything ever could possibly be a woman's fault, and thus we cannot have that. Even if it's just women contributing to a complex problem that involves more than one person and more than one concept. Moving on.
All right. Paquin only speaks only 7 words over the course of this 3.5-hour opus, but it's the last 5 that really sink in. After Sheeran kills Hoffa, and broadcasters obsess over the Union figure's disappearance, Sheeran sits in his living room listening to the reports in silence. His family doesn't know what he's done, but Peggy gets the gist. "Why didn't you call Joe?" Peggy asks, referencing Hoffa's wife. That question triggers the movie's most powerful moment when Sheeran picks up the phone and attempts to obscure the awful truth. De Niro gives some of his best acting in years across a single devastating close-up as he finally displays the emotions he's withheld his entire life.
And why do you suppose he's withheld those emotions? Could it be that not withholding those emotions leads to very negative consequences, leading a man to bottle up his emotions until it's unhealthy, and then finally, when all is said and done, and
Well,
only when all is said and done, being able to unwind?
well, I'd also say that he is like an assassin for the mob, right? Or
Yeah.
something like that. So, I mean, technically, for that kind of profession, you kind of have a level of emotional distance.
Yes, if you seem weak as an assassin, then people are going to take advantage of you and probably fucking kill you, because that's how that works.
No, it's not really that. It's just more of so you don't really feel the effect of killing someone.
Right. I got what you were saying. I was just adding to it. Like, can you imagine a mafia boss seeing his assassin break down in tears and not ordering them killed? Because I cannot imagine that. Being able to be stoic and kill people is kind of part and parcel of being an assassin. And if you do not manage that, you are a very shitty assassin.
Yeah, so I feel like,
Unless you're in the Assassin's Creed universe, in which case it's perfectly reasonable, I would imagine.
wait, what?
Because the assassins in Assassin's Creed have a much stronger like moral code.
True. I just wasn't sure what you said at first because You said it kind of quietly.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
I
heard
said, unless you're an assassin in the Assassin's Creed universe.
Yeah, someday I'm gonna make a movie. I am gonna direct a Assassin's Creed movie.
And I will be waiting with bated breath to see it.
All right. Where was it? Okay, so it takes Peggy, who's studied gaze optimizes the movie's soul, to diagnose Frank's burden. By then, however, he's beyond repair, and the somber closing act explores what it means to live within the confines of unresolvable grief.
Maybe if he was allowed to express these emotions before they became unresolvable, this wouldn't be a problem.
Well, I mean, he could have expressed them like in the comfort of like his own house or his like a room or something like by himself.
And how do you think his wife and children would react when their provider and protector starts breaking down into tears? I would imagine they wouldn't feel very catered for. And if they didn't feel catered for enough, they would just fucking leave, as women have done for hundreds of years at this point. And that's me being generous. Moving on.
Okay. At least Frank eventually tries to make amends. There's no vindication for Arthur Fleck or Joaquin Phoenix in Joker, perhaps the first mega blockbuster in film history, exclusively fixated on toxic masculinity in every disturbing scene. It's really not, though. It's more of, well, for one thing, toxic masculinity is a fucking joke. But again, it's how Dalton puts it, a villain's journey.
It's basically everything except this man is toxic, and it eventually turns him toxic. In other words, to quote a now very famous meme, we are living in a society.
Worst part is I can't remember the speech Arthur gave at the end of the movie right before he shot Murray.
What do you get when you cross?
No, not that. Not that. Before that.
Something about you'd never bat an eye if you had to walk over someone like me, but because Thomas Wayne is one of the top dogs, and these people were associated with him, you make a media circus out of it, or something along those lines.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the. Everyone is so uncivilized now. Everyone's so like neat. I want to say the exact words, but I can't remember them. It's.
No one is civil anymore, or something like that.
I think that's it. Yeah. Okay, so where were we? The jury's forever out on whether Joker actually diagnoses this abused loner or celebrates his corrupt behavior as an incel call to arms.
The fact that you're even entertaining both sides of that argument is completely foobar.
What was his name again? Eric?
Yes, Eric.
Eric. Go fuck yourself, man. Jesus.
Either he has to be this irredeemable villain, or he has to be some fucking avatar of pure evil. Do you not see how that's not exactly a balanced equation there, Eric? Could it be that Arthur had a point, and that movie was trying to, engage in some humanizing or giving the not often heard side of the story, or even just trying to convey, hey, these are things that happen, so maybe treat people with a certain level of respect and don't write them off as immoral people just because they're not exactly coherent or civilized. But no, that would require having some kind of empathy for people who you've defined as bad. And that basically means that they're good, because the only thing defining the difference between good and evil is the consequences of things. Or derp derp. Okay, let's move along.
Mm-hmm. But the movie's currency as a referendum on toxic masculinity has unshakable power. Joaquin has said that he shared the script with his mother and sister before signing on, a claim that doesn't expunge the movie of its potential sympathies, but suggests a sensitivity toward their toward their implications. What the fuck does that even mean?
He's basically saying, we gave this script of this evil thing to women and they said it was fine, which doesn't mean it's not evil. It just means that it's less overtly evil and more subtly evil, because we've already defined it as evil.
God, I wish I was drinking whiskey right now.
When you turn 21, if you ever find yourself in Pennsylvania, I will have to break open my Honey Jack, because it is really good.
Honestly, if we're still doing this by the time I turn 21, I am just going to become an alcoholic almost immediately.
Probably not a good idea. Honestly, for you, given what we were just talking about, I think before the stream, about you and your confidence issues, I highly recommend following through on one of your childhood ambitions and going and learning like fighting and martial arts, because I think that would probably help with the whole confidence issue. Not to mention getting into shape would probably help your sort of uncomfortable asocial tendencies, because you'd be more comfortable in your own skin.
Okay, this took a weird turn.
It did, but I was thinking about that after we had that conversation, and this became a worthwhile time to bring it up. So there.
Okay. All right, so where was that? Okay. For this viewer, the murky nature of the message in Joker could be that Joker didn't really have a message. It was just a really great, really fun movie, really good movie.
Could it be that it had value in and of itself, and that the point it was trying to make was broader than simple messaging? Could it be that it was trying to say lots of different things about lots of different aspects of reality, because, shit's complicated, who the fuck knew? Could it be that the story wasn't a one-dimensional condemnation of one thing or another thing? Could it be it was just trying to be, accurate and meaningful? Nah, never mind. We must be crazy. Fortunately, we're all mad here. Send in the clown.
The thing is, we actually might be the sanest people in this mad, mad world.
If there turns out to be like a nuclear apocalypse or something, and it's just the two of us remaining, and somehow the internet still works, we are gonna need to get together to essentially work on restructuring society from the ground up.
I thought you were going to say repopulate the earth.
Well, we can't really do that because neither one of us is female at the moment, so there's that.
God damn it! I think Corrupt is either puppeting you from where he is or something.
Well, I have to fill his corruption quota, don't I?
Yeah. Okay. So where was I? Lost in romantic delusions and finding his only. Oh wait, no, I didn't read. Mr. Joker gives it a blunt effectiveness of perishing the psychology of a demented man, lost in romantic delusions and finding his only solace in bloody revenge. Arthur's less a credible anti-hero than a symbolic abstraction, like so many popular comic book creations. Wait, okay, hold on. Dom, before you do. For one thing, Arthur, like, he might be referring to, like, the kind of movement that happens after Arthur kills the three Wall Street guys.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't intend for that. He didn't want that. He's not really. He has no real driving goal except like be a comedian, and he sucks at that.
Yeah.
And ultimately, he doesn't. Well, yeah. Ultimately, his goal is to be noticed because he's basically been sidelined his whole life.
Because when the world tells you you're nothing, when the world tells you you don't matter, when the world tells you you will die someday and no one will ever notice or care that you were even here, and the world will never be made better by anything you do, you spontaneously develop this notion of wanting to prove them wrong and wanting to find some way to matter.
And how does that movie end? Before the state, before he's in Arkham Asylum?
With him being cheered on by a crowd of onlookers inspired by something he did accidentally.
Don't forget the bloody smile. God damn, that was a really cool. That was a cool moment.
It kind of I almost want to say it foreshadows the Heath Ledger scars, but it's not quite really. I think it's just like I said when we were talking to Movie Bob about this. I think the questions that Heath Ledger's Joker asked, Joaquin Phoenix Joker answers. They work perfectly as replies to each other.
Yep.
You could almost take Heath Ledger's Why So Serious and pair it up with Arthur's speech before he kills Murray. And you could set it up so that one is answering the other.
Yeah.
It would be perfect. Why so serious? Well, because all of this shit is happening. Like I almost imagine that Heath Ledger's Joker walked up to Joaquin Phoenix Joker in some kind of netherworld, and just for the lulz, Heath Ledger's Joker asked Joaquin Phoenix Joker, why so serious? And Joaquin Phoenix's Joker went, hold my beer, and then this movie is the answer.
Right. Like so many popular comic book creations, a nightmarish vision of fury and self-loathing compelled to inflict his fury on the world around him.
Okay, back to the point. There's not really anything abstract about Joker. What you appear to be saying when you say abstract is you don't think there's anything substantive for this narrative to latch onto. And once again, much in the same way as Martin earlier, that is your problem. The fact that you can't see any ways that this relates to anything practical or substantive is a you problem, not the media problem. Okay? The fact that you are so sure that none of this matters, that you can't see any of the objective ways that it's presenting that it does matter, is your problem. The fact that you can't see any of the places the abstract quote unquote thing you're talking about latches onto anything substantive means you are a blind motherfucker. It does not mean there is no substance. It means you cannot detect substance. You have lost the ability to detect substance because certain kinds of substance are anathema to your nature. And I feel sorry for you for that, but it does, in fact, make you an absolute fuckwit. And way to write off an entire kind of storytelling again. Just like fucking Martin Scorsese earlier. Because everything can be everything except the things we've determined to be worthless. Apparently. Everything can be everything, and everything is a nebulous social construct except the things we've determined to already be not worth paying attention to. You stupid, stupid fuck.
You know,
Moving
I
on.
think I tried writing a short story kind of similar to the Joker. That was again, it was kind of based on a weird dream I had.
Well, I mean, it worked for Lovecraft, so
Yeah,
dreams can be quite a good thing, and of course, and of course, him being a bit of a friend of ours is probably pretty helpful.
yeah, okay. It's nice to think that the bad guys always lose, but Joker Joker assumes otherwise.
No. The point is, or one of the points of Joker is maybe the people you've defined as the bad people aren't that bad. Maybe they have a point, and maybe the bits about them that are bad were caused by something, and their badness is a rational reaction to something. Just saying. But no, of course not. You've written them off as bad, so that's the one absolute in the universe, despite the fact that everything fucking else is an arbitrary social construct that can be just hand waved away like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, kind of I want to bring up a few examples of that. So who here knows what Borderlands is? Oh, I thought you was okay.
You phrased it in like the form of a question, so I was just like, I.
Right, okay. Yeah, so for those who don't know, it's a third person, well, not third person, it's first person looter shooter. One of the first, it's actually a good looter shooter. I've not played it myself. I've heard good things about it. I've seen like clips and stuff of it. It was very satirical and funny and stuff. But if anyone remembers Borderlands 2, which is arguably the best one in the franchise so far, the villain of that story, well, I say villain, but antagonist, I suppose, is Handsome Jack. And for one thing, he is a charming motherfucker. I think he's like kind of similar to Joker if Joker was essentially like a business mogul.
Well, I mean, he's called Handsome Jack for a reason. To put it in D&D terms, he has a very high charisma score.
Well, it's kind of funny because he wears a mask on the fact that he's scarred horribly. But he becomes kind of the antagonist by being a violent sociopath because he literally killed his way to the top to own the company Hyperion. I mean, there's even like a conversation where he's casually talking to like the secretary, like his secretary, over the comm as he strangles a man.
Hmm.
I mean, granted, he does say, well, she says he's choking, like the man like Jack's strangling, but he just says no. Choking defines that he ate something that's stuck in his throat. I am strangling him, which means I am slowly adding pressure to his throat, suffocating him.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's a very fun villain, antagonist, but he also describes himself as the hero, which kind of technically is. But the way he becomes that is because he's constantly betrayed by many people that become your allies within the main Borderlands games.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he just gets really fucked over. Like one of the characters from the first game, who becomes like kind of a side character in the other games, punches the thing that allows him to kind of see the future, which horribly disfigures and scars Jack, driving him kind of completely mad and driven by vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention his wife, like the true wife he had and loved, died, and he had to kind of hide his daughter away because she was like an all-powerful being of the universe.
Hmm.
And also his daughter may or may not have indirectly killed his mother. Killed her mother, his wife.
Mm-hmm.
He's both tragic, charming, and terrifying all at once. So like the Joker.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of my, shit like that makes someone really bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like like the whole one bad day thing.
That's how far the world is from where I am.
Say what you want about that movie, but Mark Hamill gives one hell of a performance.
Yeah, Mark Hamill as the Joker is one of the greatest performances in animation history, and there's no arguing that.
Yeah. Well, also Kevin Conroy.
Yeah, I mean, those two defined their respective characters. Their voices are still the voices I hear for characters in my head when I read their characters.
Yeah. Though, in terms of animated Jokers, I will say the Batman, I believe it's Kevin Michael Richardson who does that voice. I think he does really good too.
It's just a very different Joker.
Yeah. All right, so now he's talking about the Adam Driver movie. Marriage Story provides an alternative to that bitter pill, at least in the context of a saner mind. Charlie Barber spends much of the movie in denial about the way that he has put his own career ambitions ahead of his actress wife, Nicole, Scarlett Johansson, who wants to abandon New York in favor of a better life in Los Angeles. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one.
Honestly, I kind of want to see it just on the fact of Scarlett Johansson.
It sounds like a much more optimistic movie than the one we've been provided, but it also sounds like it has absolutely nothing to do with what he's saying it's about.
Well, let's read what he has to say. Charlie learns that he's facing a lost cause when his frumpy lawyer, Alan Alda, suggests his client would do better thinking in terms of what's best for the couple's child. But it isn't until later in the movie when Charlie's tensions with his wife finally erupt with a jarring physical outburst that he melts into a sudden realization of his flaws. It's a stunning moment among the best of Driver's career, distilling the nature of toxic masculinity and all the sensitivities it keeps locked up into a single burst of dramatic energy. As Spike Lee recently put it when reflecting on Driver's skills, game respects game.
Yes, and who or what requires that men gain things? Could it be the people that men are trying to provide resources for? Like, say, women and children, and the people that they're responsible for? Could it be that if women didn't require so many damn things, men could loosen the fuck up a bit? But of course, what I just said apparently qualifies as misogyny because it implies women are not entitled to as many nice things. And that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that if we're going to extend nice things to people, how about we extend the nice things to everybody indiscriminately? Because they're nice things to have. Just saying.
The mental armor plaguing all of these characters have precise origin stories. In The Irishman, Sheeran's introverted tendencies reflect his experiences on the battlefield.
So what you're saying is he was shell-shocked into not displaying his emotions. Gee, I wonder why that happens. What do you think, neurological community who studies post-traumatic stress disorder? Derp.
And again, he kills people for the mob. You cannot be emotional with that shit.
Because it will break your mind, kind of like we see it finally do happen when he does express his emotions.
I mean, if you want to, it's also just business too, so there's a complete indifference there when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, to quote Omar Little from The Wire, that's the game. Or I might be paraphrasing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you honestly, people know what they're getting into when you get into that life of crime. There's a possibility you're going to have your head blown off.
Mm-hmm. And in such a situation, it's really not advisable to be very, very protective of your head. Because, like, if you worry too much about saving your own skin, the job doesn't get done. And if the people who you're working for know that the job isn't getting done, then whose family and friends are on the line? Whoop-la-dibla-doo, I think it might be yours in this instance.
Right. Both Arthur and Charlie suffer pent-up frustration stemming from abusive childhoods. Actually, well, Arthur could have always been like that. We're not really sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think the abusive childhood just kind of added to what he was. And more often than not, he was probably just trying to lie to himself for most of the time because I think he kind of just blocked out those memories and kind of
Tried to get the fuck on with it.
yeah. And all in all, I do think he was probably a psychopath from the beginning.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, the laughing thing when he got hurt. That could have been a mechanism, a safety, like a safety mechanism,
Coping mechanism.
coping mechanism. I don't know. So it gets more gray when you try to like dig at it. Like there's so many layers and like things that could happen. Obviously, we don't know because we weren't shown it or didn't see it or wasn't explained to us. Obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So unless we have like a definitive account of it, it's just very much up in the air at the moment for Arthur Fleck. And again, I don't know much about Charlie because I haven't seen that movie, so
Yeah, I'm having a hard time remembering exactly what happens with him.
unlike the would-be Joker, Charlie finds an outlet for his issues in art and community. However, the validation of fame falls short of addressing his failure to commune with those closest to him. Still, Charlie's arc comes tinged with an aura of hope. In a group therapy session with these three battered souls, he stands the better chance at salvation.
That sounds remarkably optimistic and not at all like it's trying to make out that his masculinity is toxic.
Well, he's talking about the characters themselves, not like in the movie, I think.
Mm.
Alright, the emotionally stunted circle might also include faded movie star Rick Dalton, Leonardo DiCaprio, and his failed stuntman Cliff Booth, Brad Pitt, as they contend with the isolating effect of their tough guy personas in Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I have not seen that.
It was fine-ish from what I remember. Nothing special.
Okay. The triumphant quality of the movie's violent finale suggests that the filmmaker sympathizes with their plight by giving them a happy ending on their own terms. However, the most authentic scene in Hollywood, and perhaps Tarantino's filmography as a whole, comes much earlier, when Dalton bursts into tears in the middle of a Western shoot. As he confronts his anxieties over his waning talent in the wake of giving a winning performance. As Tarantino recently revealed, that scene was improvised by DiCaprio himself, adding yet another layer to the drama.
And I just want to say, hashtag not all Daltons are like that.
You just had to do it, didn't you?
I did.
Okay. These concerns unfold under different circumstances in Honey Boy, the Shia LaBeouf scripted filmic memoir in which the actor literally undergoes therapy while visiting his contentious relationship with his own abusive dad. Director Alma Harrell's sensitive movie doesn't exonerate LaBeouf. Instead, it proves an effective means of getting inside his head.
And what does it say about being there? Could it be that it completely ignores all the actual internal content of his head and tries to project motives onto him anyway? Because that seems to be the long-standing tradition here.
I haven't seen Honey Boy.
Me either.
All right. Along similar lines, Kim Song-Kang-ho, the patriarch of Bong Joon-ho's Parasite, convinces his impoverished household to engage in a high-stakes con, overtaking the domestic roles in a wealthy family. The man's hyperbolic scheme is destined to fail, and it's a spoiler to reveal exactly how it does. But needless to say, no other movie this year does such a remarkable job of illustrating what can happen when one man gets trapped by ambition beyond his control. Okay, but how does that relate to toxic masculinity?
And more importantly, doesn't the Joker do exactly that as well?
Does it? I don't know. Like, I don't. That's like I'm legitimately asking. Does Joker have that? Like,
well, I mean, his ambition to be noticed and to be loved and to be admired and be a comedian and shit.
Hmm. Okay. I didn't notice that before. Alright, so the circle of men at our cinematic therapy session grows a bit wider. Overseeing it all, Fred Rogers, Tom Hanks, would surely know how to sort through their troubles. Oh, don't you dare bring Mr. Rogers into this, you jackass.
Or Tom Hanks.
I mean, yeah, all in honesty, Mr. Rogers / Tom Hanks would probably be a good choice to help a lot of movie characters with their problems, emotional wise.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Rogers is not so notoriously good for dealing with like practical solutions to things.
Dalton,
Yeah.
please don't like Mr. Rogers was my childhood, dude. Don't ruin it for me.
Okay. Fair enough.
Thank you. No, I don't think you're wrong. It's just honestly, I think he was one of the most coolest dudes in the world.
Roger.
The wise figure at the center of Marielle Heller's touching A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood helps guide cynical journalist Lloyd Fogel, Matthew Reese, to a confrontation with his own parental issues involving his ailing dad, Chris Cooper. Heller's movie frames the drama as a fictional episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, contrasting the innocence of childhood leaning with the messiness of a fragile male ego that could really brush up on those lessons about how to confront your emotions.
Or his maleness has absolutely nothing fucking to do with any of it. And you're projecting a narrative because you want to pull a theme out of this.
Go fuck yourself, Eric. Okay? If anything, Mr. Rogers is just, with that type of situation, Mr. Rogers just mostly go about how to accept that happened and move on from it, learn from it, come better from it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think, yeah, this last bit. All right. If these movies all probe toxic masculinity from a male perspective, the season is poised to balance out with some of its most anticipated titles around the corner. What I don't get it. Like Joker must have been the most anticipated movie of the year.
Judging by its cost to box office ratio, yes.
Okay. Greta Gerwig's Little Women adaptation and Bombshell, which features Charlize Theron as Megyn Kelly, among other women at the center of the Fox News sexual assault scandals, are both poised to address the other side of the equation. And those movies will probably fucking suck.
Not being funny, mate, but no one is anywhere near as interested in any of those movies combined as they are in Joker. And movies catering specifically to the feminist perspective have been a thing since, at the very least, the 70s, if not earlier. So,
And I would say most probably the earlier movies were better because they actually told a story while also touching upon the themes of feminism.
yeah. And also, it's funny how after decades upon decades upon decades of feminist specific movies, one season of movies that focuses a little bit on the male experience is too much and needs to be counterbalanced by all the female movies and all the feminist movies. Don't you think you might be a little biased there, is all I'm saying.
Can I just say, fuck the Oscars, it's a joke.
Yes. And if Joaquin Phoenix doesn't win that best acting Oscar, there will be riots in the streets. In Cloudbass, most likely.
Honestly, we should host our own awards show.
We should. We should definitely count down like our top 10 of the movies of the year.
Yeah. we'll figure something out just because I don't really get to watch a lot of good movies. And again, those are few and far between nowadays, so
Mm-hmm.
all right. Where was I? As moviegoers navigate a sea of toxic masculinity, these late season entrants may deliver a lifeline, or at least the opportunity to widen the cultural frame. They can't come soon enough. I don't ever want to see those movies because they seem boring and just.
And could it be, Eric, the thing that you are defining as toxic masculinity is what people, want to see vis-a-vis the Joker movie? Just saying. Most people don't give a shit about cultural context and all this woo. They just want good movies about compelling characters that occasionally might mean something. And you appear to be failing at providing those things, whereas Joker appears to be succeeding at those things.
You know what? I guess I can say this now. What do you guys remember? I'm sure you remember the movie TMNT, the 2007-8 movie.
Yes, the computer animated one that was a continuation of the animated series from like 2003.
Yeah, that was a badass movie.
Yes.
You'll never guess who played Casey Jones.
Who?
Chris Evans.
Well, shit.
Yeah, but I care more. My favorite character is Raphael from that movie. Well, in terms of this property of TMNT in general. But from the movie, I liked him a lot just on the fact that it makes sense since like his kind of rival slash best friend slash brother, well, his rival slash brother, went off to train himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he holds those emotions of resentment and abandonment by his brother. I don't think he's exactly open about it, but he does come to blows with Leo because of those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I care more about Raphael as a character than Captain Marvel, which isn't saying much, but still.
Yeah. I always liked Donatello the most out of all the turtles.
I think when I was younger, I did as well. But as I got older, I think I could see more of myself in Raph.
Yeah, because you are definitely the tough guy archetype.
No, it's not really that. It's that
in relative to the two of us, anyway.
Yeah, well, it's more of while he acts like the jackass of the group, and he kind of is, you can kind of tell that he really cares about his family, and that his anger is kind of more of a coping mechanism to hide how much he actually does care for his family and friends.
The anger is rooted in pain.
Yep.
Yeah.
So again, I care more about a giant mutant ninja turtle than a space warrior lady. Lady is used loosely.
Mm-hmm. Because I think if you were to call her a lady, she would punch you in the face so hard that you would have no face.
Right.
In the same way that when she was hit upon by that one dude, she quenched his hand with fucking lightning powers.
Okay, so last article of the day or night. Marvel is beginning to damage the superhero genre by Thomas Bacon. I think we've covered a few of his on Screen Rant. And this was posted November 6th, 2019.
Honestly, I think we should save this for next week because I'm beginning to drift off here.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, folks, we will cover this next week. So few things. We will be covering Batwoman episode 6 for Austin Soliloquy, because that will be a running thing for Soliloquy now until.
Yeah, God help us. We're still doing this.
Well, it wouldn't make much sense if we just cover like the first 5 episodes.
This is true.
Yeah.
Hopefully, though, it only lasts 1 season because pain.
Right. So yeah, we'll cover that. As I have nothing else except for like comic recommendations, but unfortunately, since I've been busy with work and other things, I have not been able to read much comics lately.
And I am too tired at the moment to conjure up recommendations. So.
Yeah. Well, actually, one more update. Saturday, I will be officially 20 years old.
Woo!
Yay, big 20. I never thought I'd get here that sounds dark, but hear me out. I thought the world was going to end before I turned that.
And this to you seems less dark than the notion that you'll just die before you're 20. I think no matter which way you slice it, my dude, it's dark.
Well, to be fair, 20 doesn't seem that old to me on the fact that I've lived a pretty... I've lived a full life already.
Yep, that's... I get exactly where you're coming from with that, yep.
Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, it's on a Saturday. My birthday's on a Saturday, and I will be working that day. But we might have something planned for next week. We might cover a few articles, but possibly, we might do a roast of me.
And once again, I must be aware. Are you sure you want to do that?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm fine. Look, people have been roasting me my whole life. I've even roasted myself, so.
You realize, of course, that you are way too hard on yourself.
Hey, a roast is I can also roast you, so.
Fair play.
Yeah. So yeah, all in all, we have some fun plans for next week.
And on that note, shall we do the thing?
With that, folks, I want to say goodbye, adios, aloha, avideze, sayonara, peace, cheers, and
Shalom, I'm tired. Fuck off.